of the Coventry Town Council to order at 6:05 PM. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Pasqua?
Here.
Councilmember Capaldi?
Here.
Vice President Verducci?
Here.
Councilmember Hul?
Here.
Councilmember DeLellis?
Here.
President Lima?
Here, please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. In the event of an emergency, those present this evening can exit outdoors labeled number 1 or 2 in the back of council chambers to the front lawn or back parking lot of Town Hall. Moving to meeting minutes from prior meetings, we have 2 sets for open session this evening, May 13th, 2025 and June 24th, 2025. Do I hear a motion to take the minutes as a block?
Make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Brown,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Capaldi. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua? Councilmember Capaldi?
Yes.
Councilmember Hul?
Abstain.
Councilmember DeLellis?
Abstain.
Vice President Verducci?
Yes.
President Lima?
Yes.
5 in the affirmative and 2 abstention. Motion passes.
And do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of May 13th and June 24th?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Brown, second by Vice President Verducci. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, did you receive any edits?
No, I did not.
There's no further discussion. Please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua? Councilmember Capaldi?
Yes.
Councilmember Hul?
Abstain.
Councilmember DeLellis?
Abstain.
Vice President Verducci?
Yes.
President Lima?
Yes.
5 in the affirmative, 2 abstentions. Motion passes.
And 2 sets of executive session minutes tonight, July 16th and July 22nd, 2025. Do I hear a motion to take those minutes as a block?
I'll motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Capaldi,
Second.
second by Vice President Verducci. Any discussion? Clerk, please take, oh,
There's no July 16th executive session minutes. It's only the 22nd.
That's correct.
oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't get a chance to connect with you. So I will, Councilman Brown, do you want to withdraw the motion for the block? Oh, was it Councilman Capaldi? Okay. So with that, I'll, seek a motion to, approve the July 22nd, 2025 executive session minutes.
I'll make a motion for that one.
Motion by Councilman Capaldi,
Second.
second by Councilman Pasqua. Discussion? Madam Clerk, do you receive any edits?
I did not.
Okay. There's no further discussion. Please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown?
Same.
Councilmember Pasqua? Councilmember Capaldi?
Yes.
Councilmember Hul?
Abstain.
Councilmember DeLellis?
Abstain.
Vice President Verducci?
Yes.
President Lima?
Yes.
We have 4 in the affirmative, 3 abstention. Motion passes.
All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion to take the agenda out of order.
I'll make a motion to take the agenda out of order.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Hul, second by Councilman Brown. We know that a lot of folks are here tonight with respect to discussion around the tax ordinance. We're going to move that presentation up first so folks can hear, and then we'll entertain public comment on docketed items after, just so everybody can hear. There's no vote that's occurring this evening. It's just discussion and recommendations from staff. With that, I will ask the clerk to take the roll.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua?
Yes.
Councilmember Capaldi?
Yes.
Councilmember Hul?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis?
Yes.
Vice President Verducci?
Yes.
President Lima?
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion passes.
We'll now move to report of town officers and officials, Robert Savetti and Karen Martini, on discussion on tax freeze changes. This is pages 52 to 59 in the packet. Mr. Savetti.
Good evening, members of the council. So just want to take a few minutes to go back and readdress something we talked about, I think, a couple months ago, where we first talked about the tax freeze and possibilities going forward, how to look at that. So what I provided for each of you this evening is really just a, memo that talks about some of the items that were in your packet. Try to highlight some of where we're currently at and where we think, we could look at. Obviously, the options and choices are up to the council. So again, this is a presentation that was put together, at the recommendation of the council based on, the last couple of years, the budgets we have more and more people going on the tax freeze. So just a general overview of where we're currently at. So the tax freeze is available on property that it's owner occupied by the taxpayers or those that are disabled and over the age of 65, senior residents. Taxpayers must have been the owner and the resident of the property for the previous 5 years. When a taxpayer initially signs up, so the way the system works, the year that they initially sign up, so that December 31st, that next tax roll, what they get is an $8,000 exemption. So it's an exemption from the assessed value. Currently, that $8,000 at our current tax rate, it's a reduction of their property tax the following fiscal year for approximately $129. The year after that is when their taxes are frozen and they're stuck at the rate and the assessed value of what they were when they signed up and they qualified for the tax freeze. Also within the current ordinance, the way it's worded, the veterans currently get a $9,000 assessment exemption. So again, that's an assessment exemption. So as the property tax rate decreases, we have an assessment evaluation. We're currently going through a full reval. So, if things trend the way they normally do, home value is going to be increased, so the tax rate would decrease. But at the current tax rate, a veteran saves approximately $145 on taxes for that veteran exemption. If you look back in 2022, before our last reval, their savings were $176. So again, when you're looking at an assessment credit, as tax rate decreases, the people do lose out. So we're looking to try to get more in the avenue of a tax credit versus an assessment credit. So they would have an actual reduction of the tax. Yes, it would stay the same. And then the town also offers tax relief under the current ordinance for individuals qualifying under the gross income threshold. The ordinance currently requires that the taxpayer files an annual declaration or affidavit in order to remain on the freeze. So as you recall, last year was the first year in a number of years that the town actually enforced that. And we had over 3,000 residents lined up for probably a 6-week period trying to, re-up and get their paperwork submitted. So one of the things we recommend is at a minimum, if nothing else changes with this, we would definitely like to see it change where it's recertification every 3 years, and we would do it on a rotating basis. So break out, whether it's by last name or however we come up with that system. But again, trying to recertify over 3,000 people every year just takes up a lot of time and effort in the tax assessor's office. The ordinance currently remains that people that qualify under the tax freeze or that are trying to qualify under the tax freeze, that they reside in the household for 9 months out of the year. Again, something very difficult for us to, verify. Just some of the statistics, and again, you have the full chart in your package, but as of 12/31/2024, we currently have approximately 2,900 residents that are on the tax freeze. We have 193 that have been frozen since the year 2000, so their taxes have been frozen the last 25 years. And most recently, we had 173 that were frozen on the fiscal 23 roll, 223 that are frozen on the 24 roll, 319 that are frozen on the 25, and then 331 on the 2026 fiscal year. So you can see that number continues to increase. As we all know, the population in the state of Rhode Island's aging, and I think across the country, it's just an aging population. So currently, those that are on the tax freeze for the 2025 tax roll, which is fiscal 2026, lost revenue is approximately $2.9 million from folks that are on the tax freeze. On the second page here, just an example. So based on the 2025 tax roll, if we were to remove the tax freeze at that point, the tax rate would have been reduced from $16.08 per thousand to $15.45, which means that on a property valued at $500,000, the tax rate would have, the total tax bill would have decreased by approximately $318. So just showing the impact of what the tax freeze is having on, somebody that's not qualified for the tax freeze. Their taxes on a $500,000 house is going up approximately $318. So items we looked at, and, again, this is just an example of something you could do, but we tried to lay it out. First of all, the proposal would be grandfathering in everybody that's already on the tax freeze. So if you're currently on the tax freeze, you qualified as of 12/31/2024, you're still in the tax freeze. Nothing changes, you're not removed, your taxes aren't, increasing, you're frozen. We would look to provide the veterans with a tax exemption, as I mentioned, rather than a tax assessment exemption. And we would like you to consider an exemption amount of approximately $400. So as I mentioned, currently they're receiving about $148. We'd like to see that go up to $400. So it's an increase of $255 for qualified taxpayers. Currently, based upon the number of veteran exemptions that are there, it looks like that proposal would cost the town $160,000 per year. But again, if you don't go with the 400, we think you have to do something, because if the tax rate does continue to decrease, we're taking away from the veterans because of the assessment credit. Effective January 1, 2025, we'd like to provide a senior tax credit. So again, rather than a tax freeze going forward, it would be a senior tax credit for residents age 65 or older who have owned and lived in a residence for the preceding 5 years as their primary residence. And for consideration, we're looking at if you do a $500 tax credit versus, again, the tax freeze. And currently, if you recall, in year one, under the current tax rate, in year one, they're actually only receiving a credit of about $128. We'd be saying they'd be getting a credit of $500 that first year. It would be more under a credit in the first year. Actually, in the first 3 years, there would be more under the credit than there would be under the tax freeze, so the taxpayers be saving money. We'd say keep that $500 credit for years fiscal 27 and 28. In fiscal 29, you would increase that credit to $600 per year. And then in fiscal 31, just to note that any eligible taxpayer could receive both the senior exemption and the veteran exemption. So again, in year 2031, that veteran would be getting a $1,200 credit on their tax bill. And they could also, you could have a disabled exemption and the veteran exemption. You just would not have a senior and a disabled. It's one or the other.
Yeah, before we get too far into that, currently right now, if I'm a disabled senior veteran, do I get 2 of those?
You said if you're a disabled senior veteran,
That's the one.
you are eligible for the senior freeze, the veteran exemption, and if you are 100% service connected, you may have that veteran exemption as well.
Okay,
It's only $1,000 assessment credit, though.
gotcha. But it's disabled from service, not disabled outside.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Capaldi?
So if what you just said is if we do the senior tax credit instead of the freeze for the first 3 years, they would be getting more money. After that, if some of these folks have been on the freeze for 25 years, I'm assuming they're saving a lot more money because they've been on it for so long, correct?
The people on it would be grandfathered.
So they're,
They don't
okay,
have to come
okay,
back.
so these are just for new people. Great. Another question I have, and you said something earlier about some of the like prerequisites or whatever. This is only for single-family homes. You're getting rid of multifamily homes. So if the senior lives and owns in a multifamily home, they wouldn't qualify.
We would have to have further you'd have.
Because it says it in,
The ordinance right now, you can have up to 3 units.
because it's all redded out. It's all crossed out. It says only single-family homes.
Right, because the way that works when you're on the freeze, they're not supposed to get income from that when they're applying for other exemptions, and it's hard to distinguish.
Understood. Got it. Thank you.
The thing is, as we mentioned at one of the previous meetings, you know, if you read through that ordinance the way it's currently written, there's a lot of things that are just tough to enforce. You know, we can't be at somebody's house and say, are they really there 9 months out of the year? We don't know if they're renting to somebody, you know. Carrie and the members and her staff get people coming in daily and say, well, no, my son lives here, my daughter lives here, but they don't work, so it's only my income. It's very difficult to police, plain and simply.
I have to give you guys credit from, was this a year ago when we started this? It's starting to see the, you know, the light through the trees. You guys did a lot of work on this. Thank you.
Councilman Pasqua.
Got a couple questions. Thank you for coming before us tonight with this. So first question I have is seems like a lot of miscommunication or I don't know, what have you, that the town receives a lot more revenue if they eliminate the senior tax freeze. Can you clarify if the town actually receives additional income if the town eliminated all the tax freezes? Because the way I understand it is if the town eliminated tax freezes, we wouldn't receive new income. People's tax rates would just go down.
That's correct. The tax rate would go down. It's similar with having the reval, right? Everybody's property value may go up, but if everything else were to hold even, we still need to raise $83 million to operate the town. So to generate that 83 million on higher values, it's just a lower tax rate. So if we were to remove people from the tax freeze, again, what that means more of an assessed value, we'd be able to tax. So you're right, we'd be able to lower that tax rate. Where in the example I provided here, currently that means about a $318 savings to somebody in a $500,000 home.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I thought, because and a lot of people are saying that, you know, we were looking for extra revenue, and that wasn't how I understood it at all. That the taxpayers of the town of Coventry actually have to pay for the tax freeze for the people who qualify for it. So this would relieve that pressure of them having to pay for it. Additionally, and I'm not saying that I'm in favor of eliminating it all. I just want to be clear. I just wanted people to understand that we're not gaining extra money by making changes to it. The other question that I had was, we're saying that people are grandfathered in as of December 24. So some of the requirements are obviously changing with this proposal. If they don't meet these new requirements, but they were on the tax freeze before, would they be then kicked off from having the tax freeze? Because I think that if they qualified then, they should have it and keep it.
You know, my understanding, the way we're presented in here, if you're on the freeze currently, you're staying on the freeze. Nothing's changing. The only thing you would have, we've had, so to date, you know, we're 6 months into the year, a little bit more. We've had about 160 new applicants come in that are applying to be on the freeze effective 12/31/25.
And
If this is a,
I'm sorry, I don't accept new applications until after they receive the tax bill, which
Right.
was July.
so that's in 2 months. In 2 months, we received approximately 160 applications to go on the tax freeze. So you can see we're going to get close to that 300 number. So if this were to approve, or if the council chose to move forward with this in some form, those applications, they wouldn't qualify for the tax freeze, but we would use those applications to qualify them for the tax credit. So it's not as if they filled out the paperwork for nothing. That we would take that information showing that they're over 65, they qualified, and now they will qualify for the tax credit versus tax freeze.
Councilman Hool.
Good evening. Thank you for this. So one of the first things is there's been some people on the tax freeze, we'll call it, since 2000. So I'm going to estimate that they're probably about 95 years old. And real estate's my full-time job, so that would be detrimental. And I know that we're saying that it's not going to change any of that for anyone in. I think we could ease a lot of minds by just taking this retroactive. Like they've invested for 30 years in this town, and we're basically kicking them in the throat by saying, you know, we're going to take it from you. If we should find some common ground, and I think moving forward, this system needs to be revamped. But everybody who's here, and whatever the number of years the council agrees on, 5 years back, whatever that may be, I think we really should focus on. One of the other things that makes me a little anxious, and I understand the workload of the recertifying this, but there's been a lot of talk about misuse or misrepresentation of what, this system could do. By expanding it to 3 years, we're opening that up even more. So it's like the argument that it's being abused, we're allowing that to be abused if they're not recertifying every year. Because someone who's 95, look, nature takes its course sometimes, and 3 years down, like, we're losing revenue there. So I'm all for tightening this system up and ensuring that those who are getting it deserve to get it. I'm for keeping everyone that's in the system the way it is. I think, again, there has been some misrepresentation. A tax credit could actually be more beneficial than the evaluation. People say $8,000. Well, that's not actually $8,000. That's only off your valuation. And then you multiply that by the current tax rate, you're saving $125 a year versus the $400 it could be. So I do think we can do more for the seniors there. And look, just as a side note, I feel it's my job. The people that came before me, they worked so we can, and now it's our job to take care. Keeping the elderly in their homes is important. It should be important to every one of us. They've earned it. And I just, yeah, I think it's tough. And there's been some talk about estate planning and trusts. To me, an estate plan or a trust is the most brilliant way to avoid probate with taxes, and the families are allowed to keep the property. But that trust is generally in the person's name. It's irrevocable. It's in the person's name who is the trustee of that trust. So, sorry? Correct. No, anyone can be assigned to it, but just to make that anyone that's in a trust or an estate shouldn't be eligible. And I get, to some degree, it's its own entity.
Can be in a trust.
If they're in a trust, they still qualify.
So nothing will change if they're in a trust or a life estate or anything to that effect. And the only, in regards to the multifamilies, I agree that if you are collecting residential income, that maybe we can find a way to, if it's a 3-unit, 1/3 of that is exempt, meaning the owner occupied unit. And I know it can probably get a little tricky there with tax calculations. That's not my avenue. But I just wanted to reiterate that I don't want to change anything with those that are in the system. And I would really advocate for 5 years retro on anyone. I don't know how we would keep track of that. That's above me, but that would be what do I mean by that? I mean that if someone's 60 years old and they're going to be eligible in 5 years, but they've lived here for 30, I don't want them to be affected because they've worked for 30 years anticipating that in 5 years. And I don't want to jam them up on it.
Yeah, and to that point, Councilman, past conversations we've had with Ms. Martini, there are literally people that are moving here just for this freeze because we're one of only 2 communities around that does it. So people will move here, come see Carrie and say, I want to get on the freeze. She says, you have to have lived here for 5 years. They say, well, I'll be back. And so we do have people moving here just for this program. And I think it's a very valid point for lifetime residents or decades-long residents who've been here. That
people move to Johnston, they move to Lincoln for homestead exemptions, and there's no requirements that says, hey, you have to live here. So to say that someone's moving to Coventry, I get it. Maybe to some degree there is. But that argument to me would be tough to hold up just because there's other municipalities that may not do tax exemptions or tax credits, but they have the homestead, and sometimes it's 20%.
Reality is, right, with the homestead, if you're given a 20% exemption, you still need to raise the same dollar amount. So your tax rate's still higher. If they didn't give the 20% exemption, their tax rate would be much higher. So you end up one and the same. The big families in places where you have the homestead, they're the ones that are paying more in taxes. And they're the ones that are, you're right, the residents are getting the benefit, the commercial and the multifamilies are not getting that benefit. But I think here in Coventry, we don't have a large commercial base, and I don't think you have
which is a huge problem in my eyes because we have a large tax base rested on the shoulders of the taxpayers instead of commercial. So I think that's another avenue. You know, I requested the tax roll. I won't get too deep into it, but we have a lot of vacant commercial properties that we should be talking about. You know, there's other ways to increase tax revenue. There's ways to cut spending, and I just don't think it should be on the backs of the taxpayers, especially the seniors.
Go to Councilman Brown, then Councilman Capaldi, then Vice President
Yeah,
Verdini.
kind of going off what Councilman Hool said, what is the direct benefit to the town to change it? If you could summarize that.
Yeah, so again, you know, point 6 on the second page of what I have, I'm just gonna read that, which kind of answers your question to some extent, but I'll get into it more. But so it just says, it should be noted that the adoption of this or a similar plan to eliminate the tax freeze on a prospective basis is to help maintain the town's tax base in the long run. So again, we're looking long run, right? Immediate impact, when you look at the back page that has some examples on there, the immediate impact is in the first 3 years, it's actually gonna cost the town money. So we're not looking at something that's gonna save the town money right now. It's saving the town in the long run. So the one example, you know, on the back page, if a person with a $500,000 home went on the tax freeze as of 12/31/24, you know, in fiscal 26, they say we're losing $128 in revenue. By the time fiscal 32 comes along, we've lost $1,100 in revenue. That just keeps increasing. So, you know, again, the tax freeze, and again, this is the decision of the council, and I know it's a difficult decision, but the tax freeze, you know, may have been something that was very effective when you had, you know, life expectancy 75 and lower range. Life expectancy is higher now. People are living longer. So when you have somebody on the tax freeze for, you know, 25 years, it adds up. You can see how quickly in just 7 years, it increases from $128 saving to an $1,100 savings. And that's, again, assuming an assumption that it's a 2% tax increase per year. As we know, you know, in this town, we've had in excess of 3%. We're trying to keep it at 2%. So I just used an average increase of 2% just for, you know, discussion purposes. But you could see how quick that does increase. So at the bottom of that page where I give examples, if this were to be implemented in the form as currently presented, and again, it's your option to change it or adopt however you want or deny totally. But where I say it actually costs the town, so in fiscal 27, it would actually cost the town $122,000, assuming we had 331 participants, which is what we had in the most recent completed year. In 2028, it would cost the town $68,000. 2029, it costs us approximately $45,000. In 2030 is where we end up at that virtual break-even point. You know, you'll see 2031, and actually the excess is a little bit less, but that's the year we're looking to increase it up to the $800. But you could see, you know, after the first 3-year investment of the town to put into this program, you know, that's where the benefit is. So again, it's a long-term benefit. This isn't a short-term solution. It's just to try to stop the bleeding, because at some point you're going to get so many people on the tax freeze when you need to raise taxes because you need new schools or you need new roads. You have a much smaller tax base to generate that tax revenue from because nobody else is paying into it.
If I may, like, and I thank you for your work. This is not easy.
Hang on one second, Councilman Brown still has the floor.
Yeah, just to follow up, and Councilman Hool said this, I think we got to protect the people that have lived a long time in this town. And I just don't think 5 years cuts it. I think we need to look longer than that. There's a lot of people like myself that have lived 65 years in this town. You know, you're going to move here for just 5 years because you hope to get the tax exemption. I don't know. I think that needs to be different.
Councilwoman Capaldi.
You mentioned it earlier, and I know we spoke about this about a year ago. We gave this example. There's a 65-year-old makes the freeze and is only on a Social Security. The next door neighbor is also 65 and is a millionaire. So are you, and I know you mentioned it, what would the income level, how would that work? Would they not be able, if we decided to move with an income kind of cutoff, would that mean that somebody may not get it because they make so much money?
Under the elderly, what we're proposing, they would get the credit. So it doesn't matter what your income is. If you
Okay.
were 65 and met the qualifications, you get that credit no matter what your income is.
Okay, great.
So going off some of the examples we gave tonight, it would seem that it may be advantageous at some point for people, let's say they lived here 30 years, they were on the credit, they may prefer a newer option. As we laid out when we first started, one example, they'd be actually saving hundreds more. I know it would be inconvenient to have people flipping back and forth, but as proposed, would this allow people to flip to the credit instead of the assessment?
So currently, the way the ordinance reads and the way we would maintain it is that if you came off of the freeze, you would then be off it for good. Once you come off, you can't keep flipping back. You
At
can't
that
flip back and
address.
forth at that address. And, to your point, we have a number of people that froze their taxes that are paying more taxes than they should.
So that was my next point,
Great.
yeah.
Example one we just looked at recently, there's somebody paying approximately $1,100 more than what their actual tax bill would be this year because they elected to be on the freeze. And again, that's because of, right, the way the value of the home is changed versus what the tax rates change. It's just not proportionate. So, but again, that's their choice. It's right on their tax bill. If they wanted to come off it, they can come off it. My discussions with some residents of town as well, we may be fine paying a little more now because we know in 15 years from now, we're going to be paying a lot less. Myself as a financial guy, I'd rather take the money up front because I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but we're all different. Everybody, has a different perspective. But we do have a number of people that are paying more than what their tax bill would be if they were not on the freeze.
Thank you.
Councilman Hool.
To the point of that if they come off the freeze, they're ineligible at that current property. Is that just means they can no longer get it at all?
They would no longer get the freeze. If the council chose to go with a tax credit program, they would be eligible for the tax credit. So they would get one or the other.
But if they came off of it, let's say they didn't sign up for it, they forgot, they would no longer be allowed to reapply the following year? Because
They
that's,
didn't get, yes, if you hold that they have to certify every year, then correct. They would come off it and they could not go back on.
now that to me.
Unless the council made an exception.
So we're dealing with the elderly that are
It's the way the ordinance is written currently.
okay, so are you proposing to keep it that way, or was that a change in there? I'm just trying to understand.
That's the change.
So you want to change it where they're not allowed to get back
Wanted to
on?
change it to certify every 3 years, so they didn't have to come in.
My question would be just simple. I take care of my grandmother. She's 83 years old. She sometimes forgets what her medicine she's on. So to think that someone who's 83 or 93 that lives alone may forget to reapply, they not eligible at that house anymore, or would they just be ineligible for that year and then could reapply moving forward?
Well, if they were to reapply, they can reapply if they just forgot and they didn't recertify.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify.
But it wouldn't be at the assessment and the rate
It wouldn't be retro.
originally.
It would
No.
be at the new rate, because now they're applying.
So they would be applying as a new person.
Right.
Like as a new, okay, that I think is, that would be detrimental to our elderly.
That's what it is right now. We're trying to change, they're proposing change.
That's what I'm asking. So is the proposal to fix that? Like, I wouldn't want to penalize, it's simple for me. I wouldn't,
If you went with the plan that Mr. Savetti suggested,
Mhm.
you would never have to reapply. There would be no recert. Once you were on it, you were on it.
so what was it 3 years for then?
If you don't grandfather in the people there now and you keep it as it is, we, in the least amount, we need to not recertify every single year.
They're saying if we don't.
Right now,
keep
it's
the
every
credit
year.
and we just stick with the freeze as is.
I'm
they
just worried about the
still need-
paperwork
we'll still
being
need
missed.
Certain changes to the ordinance so that, because right now the ordinance doesn't prescribe every 3 years, it prescribes annually. So they're saying to make it easier for seniors and to make it easier for staff to, if you're going to keep it to just the freeze and not do the credit piece, then make it every 3 years that someone has to recertify. Now, when last year when we did the certification for the first time since this was enacted in 2000, we had some folks who came in and said, look, I went to my mother's house, I realized it was buried in a pile of papers, or I got this from the town, I didn't think it was a real thing. So we did a grace period. If someone came in and said, look, like, I'm so sorry, I didn't make it in time, I think every single person that reached out, we let them stay at the old retro rate. So if there's some clause that needs to go in, if the freeze program stays as it is now, then I think this council is amenable to that.
I think maybe I'm still confused, and I apologize if I do. What I would want to ensure is if that 80-year-old or 90-year-old person didn't have a family member that was advocating for their paperwork and they forgot to reapply, and then it hit a light bulb like it does when you get to be that age, all of a sudden they're watching TV and something triggers their mind and they're like, oh crap, I forgot to reapply. I don't want to penalize that person at today's rate because they could lose their house for that.
No, I'm saying last year, those people came to the council and we said, nope, you can do the retro. That's what we did.
And is that in an ordinance, or would that be up
No,
on an individual
did that
case by
as-
case basis?
We did that as a council saying, we don't want these people to get.
Could we say no to person A and yes to person B?
It's not again, the ordinance is poorly written. It doesn't outline at all how anyone.
I'm advocating for us to add something where we're not penalizing them.
We all agree.
Okay, that's what I'm asking, I'm clarifying.
Again, this is
You don't
a
need
very
to
rough
ask.
proposal. We could go what's on here. It's up to the council to decide how you want to word this, talk to your solicitor, get it all updated. There's a lot of different wording that can be in here. We were just tasked with try to say what else is there. Look at other communities, which if you look at the report from the League of Cities and Towns, other communities are all across the board. There is no standard where you say everybody gives a $400 exemption, a $600 exemption. I can tell you, in my hometown, the administration made the mistake when we had a full revaluation where we had an assessment credit of 40,000 for the elderly. Well, when the tax rate went from $26 down to $13, those elderly paid a lot more in taxes because that 40,000 was exempted at $13 versus $26. So their exemption was cut in half. So, there's things you can put in place where we've seen that just with the veterans, with the small exemption they do have, it's been reduced from $178 down to $144. It should never be getting reduced. So trying to just look at the big picture and also look at the future of the town and how you can stabilize taxes. But again,
And I think
that's why you're elected. You're the council
moving
to come up
forward,
with a decision for this.
I think I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to protect the tax base, and moving forward, I think it has to be brought up to speed. We'll call it.
Right. And so
My concern was if you're 60 or even, like Councilman Brown said, maybe even go further back. I want to ensure that people who have paid their fair share and have been good stewards to the town don't get kicked out because of that.
as someone that sits in your seat in another community, as you know, you're never going to make everyone happy, right? So this council could sit there and say, we're going to go back 5 years retro, and then I'm 59. Well, why'd you cut off before me? Well, now you go to 55 and it's a guy that's 54. So it's a tough position to be in.
Well, it's just about
They're just again presenting the facts, and then it's a matter of the council to decide what that threshold is. Is it 5 years, 10, 15, 20? It's, we're just trying to lay out so you can see what the impact is and how it does affect the town. Again, in year one, losing the 128, but year 7, losing 1,100. Multiply that by 3,000 residents, and it's a big hit to the tax base.
Solicitor Angel.
To address a comment that Councilman Hool had, we would put in a savings clause that doesn't presently exist as to recertification, right? So that if you've lost your paperwork and a relative finds it and you show up late and say, oh, I missed the deadline, right? Presently, the reason why the council was able to fix it, it was a direct petition to the council, right? Which is allowed, but there really is no mechanism in the ordinance. So you could have a savings clause built into the ordinance, whatever the new ordinance looks like. Now, Mr. Savetti and Ms. Martini did a lot of work on this. They've worked this up in a way now that, taking the council's suggestion, my suggestion would be, let's work this up into a revised ordinance, get it posted, and have a workshop. Because based on your input, okay, I'll give you an example. There are 3 section 217-8, right? So based on the paperwork that I've seen here. So those are the kinds of changes that we would make in the legal department, look at some other things. And we would work with Mr. Savetti and his people and say, okay, based on what the council wants, based on the revisions, now what does that do to the math, right? And then come back to the council and you'd have a narrower scope of options so that you'd really know where you're aiming. You know, to Mr. Savetti's point, you're not going to make everybody happy, right? I mean, that's a policy decision, as he said, but from a legal standpoint, things like a savings clause for those who didn't recertify for, you know, for whatever reason, they just made a mistake. They shouldn't lose, you know, their status. So we can build that in. I made a note on that. I mean, we can certainly work on that and bring that to the council, so.
I think in terms of next steps, I think a workshop is merited, but also I think it would be helpful, especially for the public in reading the packet, to split it out into two scenarios. Scenario one being we change nothing, just the policy stays the same. However, you tell us if we're going to keep with this program, here are things we need to better manage it going forward. So there's option one. And then there's option two of what we've discussed tonight, some of the notes regarding the grandfathering, the going back more than 5 years in terms of residency requirement, or having it be more than 5 year residency requirement. And then with both of those scenarios, showing what's the financial projection. You know, Councilman Brown asked and Councilman Pasco mentioned, what would it look like in terms of quote unquote savings, but also what's the cost of doing nothing as well, which you've kind of hit on as well. And you've shown a scenario, but I think if we can put it into side by sides, you know, what is the veteran exemption now? What could it be with another one? Or what would the disability versus et cetera? So I think that may put it in a clear picture, but I'll open it up to the rest of the council with the pleasures in terms of next steps. Councilman Pasqua.
Just a couple of quick comments, very brief. I just want to reiterate, because I think it's important for the public to understand this as we move forward to handle this, that there's a couple of times we talked about the town loses revenue and the town misses out and town spends money. Realistically, we're not losing revenue. We're just passing the bill on to the taxpayer by raising the rate for the tax freeze or whatever model we use. The town does not lose money with these tax freezes. And so that, I think it's really important people understand that. The other thing is, and Solicitor Angel touched on this, is I want people to understand that this is a process that can't happen overnight, and that there's a process in our charter on how ordinances are adopted, and the solicitor can explain that process. So people know that they can submit testimony, they can be involved in the process, they can come to hearings, and they can give feedback on ideas that we have about how to make this better for everybody. And I also agree, that was a great point that got brought up earlier about people missing the research process. We saw that happen quite a bit this last time, and it was a heavy lift for the council to make a lot of exceptions so people were able to keep their freeze. I too would definitely be interested in putting something in there to protect the people. It's like a savings clause. So if they miss their deadline, we can keep them back to what they have. Even if they miss a year or whatever, I can't see why we couldn't figure out a way to put them back on what they were having. The last comment is, as we do this, I think it's important that we do a little line in the new terms you did back then, so you're not going to lose it. You know, just to give that, you know, put away that anxiety some people have, because a lot of people right now probably losing sleep thinking that, you know, the tax bill is going to double tomorrow morning because the council's having a vote tonight. That's just not true. So I just think getting out to the public any way we can, however we can, just let them know what's happening and answer their questions is huge.
Councilman Cabaldi.
To John's point, the craziness was spreading like wildfire on social media about this issue. Reach out to your council person, will give you the right information. This, you know, we're going to have options. We're going to be able to give it to you. You're going to be able to look at it. You can ask questions. Don't let the spreading of whatever's going on social media be your answers, because that's not where the answers are. Thank you.
Councilman Hool.
Just really quick. It's a very fair point, and I believe that this town has a problem with the communication to the public. I sat down tonight and I received a 3-page document that I'm supposed to read, understand, and ask questions on all within a matter of 10 minutes. Like, Councilwoman Capaldi mentioned to call our council people. I wouldn't have had the answers. But giving us this document instead of allowing the social media to just run, like, thanks, John, for putting a post up today to try to clear out some, but we're supposed to answer these questions, but giving us something 10 minutes before, to me, but we can't if we don't know. Thank you. Again, I'm not here I think you guys are doing great work and you're doing what you're supposed to by giving us options and solutions and the data. I just would love all of this information a little sooner.
Can we publish this on the website, Dan? Solicitor Angel, I think you.
Just to address some of the process questions or issues raised by Councilman Pasqua. So this is not an ordinance. This is not a proposal, just so the public's aware. This is a discussion from a department head to the council on an issue that the council wanted evaluated. Next steps, given that this is a hot issue with many pieces that would need some public explanation, we don't often do workshops for an ordinance, okay? So the public's aware. I mean, before I came here, this town really wasn't governed by ordinances. They did a boatload of resolutions, right? We've done a lot of code change since I've been here, and there's more to come. You have a posting requirement for your ordinances when they're introduced, right? So, they have to be posted for 4 days. They have to be introduced by a council person. Once they're introduced and posted, they have to be sent out to the council. Then there's a first reading, which is essentially the first public posting other than what's on the wall in the clerk's office and elsewhere on an agenda. It's not discussed that night, not voted on that night, and then subsequent to that at a regular council meeting is a hearing, okay? What I propose, if I may, on a subject like this, is to take the work that's been done here, okay, put it into an ordinance proposal with some of the feedback that we've had here tonight. Not post it, but put it to a workshop of the council to discuss it as a working document, okay? With an opportunity for the administration to take that working document and be able to say fiscally, here's what these sections mean and how they impact people. And that would be some meaningful dialogue. It's a public meeting. It's an opportunity for the public to come and have their input into that, because this is a much larger issue. I mean, this is, to everyone's point, this is not a 10-minute discussion. It's a deep discussion. But what I've also heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Disavetti, if I may, through the chair, we need to get this done before the end of the year. Is that right?
Again, if you wanted to implement it with this year, it could go into next fiscal year if you wanted, and you would start with the
next
cutoff date of
year.
12/31/25, right?
Right.
We're looking at the assessment date of 12/31/24, because those are the bills that went out right now. Again, you could implement it.
You still have plenty of time to get this done. I mean, there's a lot of work here that's been done. I think it's a good basis to do it. You can still get this done by the end of the year so that 12/31/24 deadline would still hold and the rest of the analysis. So we can work to get that done so that those dates don't have to change on you. But if the council would be willing to do a workshop just on this issue alone, we can get you some documents that, we can kind of fool around with based on feedback and the council's understanding, and then get you an ordinance that can then be posted and go through that posting process rather than have a free-for-all on the floor of the council after a first reading and a hearing, and then we're changing something at hearing. That it would be a total misunderstanding. So that's just my thought.
Vice President Verducci.
So going off the solicitor's point, where we are tonight, this is not even an ordinance, whether or not we should continue as is, in some part with the freeze, which is always going to be tied to fluctuations in the market because it's based on assessed value, whereas a credit is going to be real dollars, which are just stabilized. Is that, big picture wise, that's what we're looking at.
Correct, big picture, but, you know, from the assessment as far as the fluctuation, just remember that once they are frozen, their assessment's frozen is in addition to the tax rate. So once they are frozen, it's both the assessment and the tax rate, so they won't see a fluctuation.
Thank you for that. Okay. And then, yeah, the only other thing I'd like to see, I think Councilwoman Capaldi mentioned it, but just options as we go through it. Excuse me, I think for the workshop would be great. So, you know, especially looking at changes we can make. And then, you know, going off of that timeline, we'd be rolling right into budget season. So, you know, at least we know what we'd be looking at and could also see how that's going to feed into the budget. You know, this is going to cost us money up front. So, you know, all this discussion, we're still going to have a tax increase to implement some of these things next year. So just kind of keep the big picture in line for everybody. But that would be at least good timing as far as budget development. We'd know what we're looking to solve for. So thank you guys for your work.
If I can.
Any further discussion? So it sounds like the pleasure of the council is to see kind of more refined option.
So if I can, just, you know, in relation to that, you mentioned about a fiscal note. A fiscal note would be very hard to come up with for a project like this, because I have no idea how many residents out there in your public are age 60 or age 55, been in their house 10 years, 5 years, whatever you're going to look at. So there's no way for me to come up with a true fiscal note. We can give you examples of what the range is, but to say, you know, implementing, because we're going to allow people that have lived here for the past 10 years to come in or that are
Well,
currently
I
age
guess-
60, until I know how
guess my
many people
point
are age
is-
60.
I guess my point is you're telling us that having too much of one population receiving the freeze is unhealthy for the tax base. So I'm just asking you to to put that into or articulate it in both of the options of what that impact is essentially. You've kind of already done that here, but that's all. What happens if it stays the same? What happens if, yeah, that's all. Councilman Capaldi.
I just wanted to reiterate that the town manager will be putting this document up, that you guys can go to our website and take a look at the options and everything that we spoke about tonight, so you guys can look at it yourself. It's really great information.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to public comment on docketed items only. Those items on our agenda this evening, come forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Yes, Mr. Guthrie? And just if we can keep our remarks to 4 minutes, that'd be great.
I'll do the best I can. The solicitor and I agree on something tonight. I put a little package together for you. And it does mention that this has to be proposed by a counselor. So had you not changed the format of the meeting tonight and taken things out of order, I would have been the first one to stand up. So I'm going to be like a teacher, and I'm going to put these face down on your desks and ask that you don't turn them over until I get back. Okay, you can turn them all over right now. And what you're going to see on the first page is ordinances. This is an ordinance. What's being proposed is an amendment to this ordinance. So what it says that every proposed ordinance, including an amendment to an existing ordinance, It shall be filed with the town clerk by a member of the town council not later than 4 business days previous to the date of the meeting at which it is to be introduced. A copy thereof shall be posted by the town clerk in some conspicuous place in the town hall where it shall be accessible for inspection by the public. The town clerk shall forthwith provide each member of the town council with a copy of the proposed ordinance. Yesterday, I went out into the hall and I looked at this. There's no signature on it. It's not sponsored by anybody. All right, but by changing the way that we're doing things tonight, I can't bring up the fact that one of you has to present it to the public, not the finance director. This is an amendment to an ordinance. And if you look on the second page, it's ordinance number 4-00-0219. This is the original legislation from 2000 that was, if you go all the way down to the bottom of the page, proposed by Councilman Ronald Wood and Jim Spearman on June 15th of 2000. And it was posted by the clerk on June 15, 2000 out there. And I had to sit out there for 2 days. Okay. It had to be put in a media. So it said it was put in the Kent County Daily Times. So we pretty much don't have that anymore. You know, social media has taken over a lot of things. I'm probably part of the blame of why there are a lot of people here tonight. And I'll get into that in a minute. So the day it was adopted was July 24th of 2000. So this ordinance, and it's an ordinance that is going to be amended at the request of, I think, the town council through the administration, before the voters.
They didn't. We've already articulated that they provided us information based on a town council ask.
But there's no name on the bottom of this.
They
you
provided
don't-
a memo of research. There was no ordinance proposed. This council has put forward ordinances. It's advertised them appropriately. We've been through the process as you've described, as you've given us in a handout here. So the solicitor's aware, trained, we're aware of the process, yeah.
Right. So like I said, nobody signed anything. So my only assumption would be that you put it on the agenda, so you're the sponsor. Am I right or am I wrong?
No,
Somebody had to,
it's a discussion about
it's a
town-
discussion now. It's a discussion now because you changed.
it was never,
Let me
no,
finish.
no, you've gotten to speak over me and come up here and personally attack me. I'm going to speak now. I'm telling you, this was a discussion based on information that the town council had asked for. This was not docketed as an ordinance. It was not docketed for a vote for a first reading. There was no need to advertise it for it because it was not actually put in ordinance format. It was put in the form of a memo based on research that was requested of the administration. They did exactly what they were asked.
It was put in the form of legislative writing.
No, it was
Right.
not. It was a report from a town official. That's how it was docketed, as a report, because we asked them for information and that administrator gave us that information.
All right. So,
And I had to ask you to come to a conclusion at this point, Scott. Thank you.
sure. So, like I said, I'm probably one of the instigators on this. And I have a couple of suggestions for you. You want to have a workshop? Fine. You want to notify people like every 3 years, say every 3 years, someone's gonna, has to come in here and re-up their thing, put it on their tax bill. It's not gonna cost you a penny. Or you could use what the Charter Review Commission gave you, was the permission to send a letter to the residents of the town, even if you have to limit it to the people that are on the tax freeze. You have the power to do that. Or you can have an open session at the high school And what you could do is you could have the finance director explain what's going to happen to someone that is 64 years old, how it's going to affect them, 63, 62, 61, 60, because it's going to affect them all differently. An expectation of being on this tax freeze, as Mr. Hool said. They've been here, spend their entire lives here, as Chief Brown said. So this seems like it's a wipeout for them. Prospectively. So the only thing that I can say is that more information needs to be shared with the voters. And when it comes out as a great question that everyone can agree to, that works. And the other point is it would keep these people in their homes. Somebody leaves their home, okay, and they're scared. Go drive around town now and see how many for sale signs are out there. They're out there. So they sell their home. Family moves in, 3 kids.
Scott,
I'm just
giving
finalizing.
you 8 minutes. Come on,
Good, I'm finalizing.
please.
I'm finalizing. 3 kids in the school system at $18,000 a kid. $54,000 it would cost the town. All right, if those people leave that house. And that house may or may not pay up to $10,000 a year in tax. I'm not a huge fan of getting rid of this. If it's got to be adjusted, it's got to be adjusted correctly. And letting everybody know at that age where they've been expecting, to go and receive this, give them the benefit of the doubt. Thank you.
Public comment on docketed items only. Come forward to the microphone. Make sure the green light on. Keep your remarks to 4 minutes, please.
Brittany Boyer, 318 Town Farm Road. I did prepare something that I wanted to read, but I did take away something Mr. Savetti said, and he said, if we don't do this, we have to do something. We can stop spending. I think that's huge. I think that makes a huge difference. These proposed changes are not only poorly crafted, but also deeply insensitive, particularly in how they affect credit ranging from $400 to $800 does little to maintain that stability. These changes reduce long-term relief as flat credits do not adjust with rising tax burdens. It creates value, income level, or need, undermining the equity of the program. The original ordinance allowed for income-based relief, which ensured that those in the greatest need received the most support. A flat credit punitive is the lifetime ban clause. One of the most troubling additions to the ordinance is the clause stating that any person who has requested to be removed from the exception may not reapply in the future. This is an excessively harsh penalty. I know we did talk about that tonight, so if we are going to make changes to that, I think it would be helpful across the board. People may temporarily withdraw due to illness, travel, confusion, clerical error, and to punish them with a lifetime ban is both unfair and legally questionable, potentially violating principles of due process and fairness. Moreover, such language discourages transparency, and people may be hesitant to report changes if doing so could permanently disqualify them. I truly believe the community frustration here is justified. The growing frustration in the community is not just about the changes themselves, but about how they're being introduced. Major benefit reductions are being proposed with minimal public discussion. Many feel the process is being rushed through without full transparency, and to many residents, it feels like cost savings are being prioritized at the expense of elderly and disabled neighbors. Coventry doesn't have a cutback problem. We have a spending priorities problem. Residents see that we just spent $150,000+ on a trash truck undercarriage cleaning system. And we have a tax department who's proposing to cut a tax lien in half on a property to a resident that's interested in it. Yet we're proposing to reduce relief for the very people who built benefits were intended to support our full-time resident homeowners. I welcome further discussion to refining the qualifications and application process. I have a lot of ideas. I'm happy to share them if anyone's interested. As it stands, though, this ordinance as revised sends the wrong message. It tells our seniors and disabled residents that we no longer value their place in this town. Let's prove otherwise with our policies and our votes. I have one other topic that I wanted to touch on. I'll be very quick to try to stay in my time. Another thing I heard tonight was that we were more concerned about more and more people on a tax freeze. Yet we again proposed to cut a tax lien in half on a property. Did we offer to send this to auction? Did we offer to try to make any money on this? I'm just not really understanding that. I have no issue with the person who's doing this. He's making a great financial gain by buying a lot at 14 grand. But what if somebody came up here tonight and offered 15? Or what if I came in with a check and offered you 20? What happens then? There's a lot of money on the table. There are investors everywhere. People are buying houses like hotcakes cash right now. If we're willing to cut these tax sales in half to give people lots, we're gonna make money. We are not in a situation where we have so much of it, we're lighting it on fire. We're cutting things that we don't need to be cutting. If we have the opportunity to put things at tax sale, we should do it. Why are we not doing it? Why are we sitting on them? Mr. Savetti said that there was 2.9 million in lost revenue. So maybe we take a look around, we see what we can sell off, and we do it. And we put a little bit of that money away and we put it towards something that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Public,
Are going to be posed for tonight under the audience of ordinance 2025-22.
Ms. Kane,
Well,
public hearing on that, take comments.
oh, okay, okay.
Where that's the next item.
Okay.
So if you want to stand close by when we finish this public comment,
Fine.
and then that'll be done. Yep. Public comment, docketed items. None in chambers. We'll go to Zoom. Please raise your hand to be let in and state your name and address to the record. Please unmute yourself and state your name and address to the record.
Anthony Nardolillo, 10 Colby Drive.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
So I just want to address the concern that was just brought up by Brittany about cutting the property taxes on owed property taxes on 7 Loretta in half. If she wishes, she could drive by that property. As doing minimum housing in this town, there are numerous properties that don't pay any taxes, don't maintain the properties. This property has been like this for at least 5 years that I've been doing it, and we've gotten no tax income from them. So getting something out of it is better than getting nothing. I know as a fire district that I sit on the
Your hand up on Zoom. Please unmute yourself and state your name and address to the record, please.
Hi, Kimberly Sansucci, 36 Mapledale Street.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Great. I've lived in Coventry since 1969. I've been a homeowner since 1996. Our home is a two-family home, a multifamily. It is owner occupied. This is our home. I'm hearing talk that the possibility is that multifamilies would possibly no longer qualify for the tax freeze. I'm pretty concerned about that. I mean, I'm 61 years old, paid taxes. I've been a good steward of this town for many, many years. So pretty concerned. I would ask that the town council please consider not excluding multifamilies, even if there's some type of freeze maybe on the owner occupied portion of the house. And I know as a town councilman Houle had said that can be a little tricky. But again, it just be, I just think it's just unfair. It's something that we've worked towards. We paid our taxes. I really hope that that's considered, that possibly not happen, that multifamilies would still be included. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on Zoom? Please unmute yourself and state your name and address to the record.
Joanne Tandy, 13 Magnolia Lane, Coventry.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
I've lived in the town almost 40 years now. Good steward of the town. I am totally against what is being proposed. Well, the proposal that's been placed on up tonight. I'm just curious. I just listened to something tonight, which I found.
Age 60. You know, we don't have that information. We certainly have the tax rolls where we can see how long people have owned their home, but
And
doesn't
why?
indicate an age.
Right. And why?
I don't know how I can
Well,
know
I
every
mean, when you're
resident,
running-
35,000 people in the town, how
Right.
old they are.
Right. Well, when you're
You have
running
to
figures
provide
and
your age when you get.
well,
into
when you're
housing.
running figures and projections, I think it would be beneficial to have that information.
So how
I
would I
mean,
go
I mean,
about getting that,
I mean,
guess?
that would be up to the council and up to you. But if you're running projections, I think you would have, I mean, just common sense to me would mean that you would have to know the ages or the potential ages of the people that are going to be getting the tax freeze.
Which is what I indicated to the council. If they wanted me to do a fiscal note, before I could do that fiscal note, we would have to get the age of every taxpayer in the
Right,
town. to-
right. And to me,
I
that would
agree
make,
with you 100%, but
We don't.
all I
he
was
can't-
saying, without that information, I can't
doesn't-
produce a fiscal note. I don't currently
right.
have
So,
that.
so I mean, how can you even make I mean, I just,
He agrees with you. He
to
can't
me, that
make a
just doesn't
fiscal
make-
note.
you don't have the residents' ages.
No.
Well, you do. Well, you do. Well, possible.
I think that's such a fluid situation.
Especially when, oh, that's one point. I'll just keep it brief. There was something about, I was reading something about that you're in this proposal, that you would have to be a registered voter in the town of Coventry. Is that something new that's being proposed?
Well, again, one of the discussions was, again, when we were trying to recertify people last year, we had people that came right in and told us that they're currently living in Florida. They live in Florida 6 months out of the year. They came back just to fill out this paperwork. They signed a
Right.
certification saying they're living in the town 9 months. So that's why I was
Right.
saying it's very hard to police that type of ordinance the way it's currently written. So we were.
Well, I don't think
looking
you
for
should be
something that
policing
is-
anything, to tell you the truth. But to that as a requirement, I think that is absolutely ridiculous. Not everybody is registered to vote. It's their right to register or their right not to register as a citizen of the US. So I don't even know how you could get away with doing something like that. You cannot require somebody to be a registered voter. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's at the prerogative of the person. You can't require that. So just my 2 cents on that one. So overall, I think there needs to be more data put out there. I'd like to see hard numbers. I haven't seen any. If somebody could provide them, post them somewhere, projections, how you can project whether somebody's going to stay in their home, whether they're 62 for another 5 years, or whether they're 59 for another 10 years. I don't know how you're making your projections.
Again, at this point, we haven't made those projections because we do not have that information. We're simply looking at the trends and where we've
Good.
had over the past 3 years, over 300 people going on the freeze. You're right, if everybody were to drop off the freeze tomorrow, or if we know people were only going to stay on the freeze for 2 years,
Right,
continue
so
with
I
the
don't-
plan as
yeah,
is.
so-
There is no way to
right.
do it. We can only look at the
There has to
history
be,
and where
there
it's
has to
going.
be, there has to be a way to do it. Otherwise,
Way to
right.
do it. We can only look at the
There has
history
to be,
and where
there
it's
has to
going.
be, there has to be a way to do it. Otherwise, this proposal is, in my opinion, ridiculous. You can present that as an argument, but I don't even know, I don't know. I don't know how you would do that. That's part of when they were talking about the lots that were for sale over here on Route 3 in Hackney Hill. That was one of the big selling points, is that people that were coming in there were going to be not people with children. They were going to be 65 or 65 and older and all this other stuff. I don't even know why that was being discussed if you're talking about amending the freeze. So I think there's a lot of things going on here. And I think it really needs to be examined completely to make a right decision. I'm not
Agreed.
saying that the ordinance,
Which is why the council said that wants to continue the conversation and not make any decisions. So thank you. Anyone
okay, well,
else
thank
on-
you for cutting me off like that. Thank you.
No one cut you off. They said thank you. Anyone else on Zoom, public comment on docketed items only? Public comment going once, twice, 3 times. Public comment is now closed. At this time, I'll seek a motion to open public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilman Hool, second by Councilman. Hearing this evening, ordinance number 2025-19, amendment to the Town of Coventry Code of Ordinances, Part 2, General Legislation 2005, by adding sections to Chapter 2, ordinance only. Come forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Ms. Kane? 2025-22. I'm not, am I missing that on the agenda? I'm not seeing that on tonight's agenda, Cheryl. Cheryl, you want to come show me what you're looking at so I can help? This was first meeting that, but it's not docketed tonight for the second reading and public hearing, not tonight. Yes. A zoning enforcement officer she's asking about. Is that for next meeting? October 7th? October 7th, that one. It's going to be docketed for second reading. Yep. All right, sorry about that. Thank you. Public hearing still open, public comment on, ordinance 2025-19 only. Anyone on Zoom? Raise your hand. Comment on the ordinance. All right, if that's the case, Solicitor Angel, I'll go to you.
Before we begin, so the council's aware, right? This is these planned districts and other types of changes like this are what are called non-codified zone changes. In other words, they don't show up in the book of ordinance. I take a different position. I'm requiring that certain types of changes be codified. This is one such change. As part of Vintiv change that talks about the percentage of affordable housing, in the original draft of the ordinance, it was a proposal for 18%. I believe that somewhere along the line across the street in planning or the developer or whomever, I don't know, that would be discussed tonight, that was reduced to 15%. Okay, so with
I was told by Mr. McLean that that was only proposed, it was not, Mr. McLean, that was only proposed, it was not actually.
Okay, I copy of what the original ordinance is, which is what's before you, and a red line copy of the proposed changes so that you have the benefit of that in front of you as the discussion progresses. My other understanding tonight is that you have not been provided with a fiscal analysis as to the impact of this. Okay, so to Councilman Houle's point, and the fiscal analysis is not prepared by finance, it's prepared by the developer with their expert. That's very typical that that be done that way. There's nothing nefarious about it, but it's not prepared in-house by finance. My understanding is that that was not made available to you before this evening's meeting. It is really the council's pleasure to decide what it wants to do. With respect to that, I know that in the past, the council wishes to consider the fiscal impact of things, you know, in a thoughtful way, and certainly getting it the night of doesn't give you time to do that. Those are my comments before you begin your process tonight to hear this in a hearing and to have the developer present and for you to hear from the planning director. What I would like to do with the permission of the chair is to give you this handout with the proposed changes so you have it in front of you. All right.
Is already in the council's packet.
No, the original ordinance is there in front of you. You've seen that. But what you've not seen is the red line, which are the proposed changes to the original ordinance. You would need to vote on those changes as floor amendments, would not consider those changes to be substantive, so it would not, I've reviewed it, those are not substantive changes by what the law would say is a substantive change. And I know that the Planning Commission has given an opinion with respect to this, and I know that Mr. McLean has his opinion. That doesn't involve me.
Mr. McLean, did you want to just make a couple comments? I know you put a memo.
Doug McLean, Planning Director for Coventry. I can be very brief just to suggest that the one-page cover memo that planning provided and the recommendation the Planning Commission provided does provide some background. There's a lot of information on the project. So the the project's purview is, or the Planning Commission's purview is the project. They overlap for this meeting because, as you may know, if you approve zone change, you're paving the way for the project. All of the information on the project's available online, a lot of details. A couple points that the solicitor brought up is that this is a planned district, so they're not seeking a specific zone that already exists in town, like a general business zone. They're creating their own zone to essentially provide the framework to allow the project as they've envisioned. The project was approved conditionally by the Planning Commission last week, and the Planning Commission did have a positive recommendation on the ordinance. There were a number of changes. Some of those changes were brought to us before the Planning Commission meeting, and then the affordable percentage was discussed on the floor of the Planning Commission last week. So I'm available for any questions, and then the applicant might be able to provide an overview, and I could answer any questions you have afterward as well.
Thanks. We'll bring up the applicant at this point.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the council. For the record, my name is Kelly Morris Salvatore. I represent the applicant in this matter. Here tonight with us is Tim Eden. He's the principal of Star Capital. We have Bob Clinton, who is a PE also. He's a traffic engineer. We also have Joe Lombardo, who is our fiscal consultant. And as I said to a couple of you earlier, totally my mistake. I did try to, well, I thought I sent the fiscal analysis to you on Thursday. These things happen. I didn't press send, and here we are. So we understand that there's a lot to take in tonight, and we're happy to. There's approximately 17 acres on the full site. The property is currently zoned industrial 1 specifically. So we're proposing a zone change to a special plan district, as Mr. Angel said. It's called Coventry Center Plan District. The zone change is intended to promote flexibility with appropriate potential commercial uses as well as multifamily use. And just so you know, we did look at your zoning designations. Specifically, we looked at Business Park because that's right across the street, but it didn't provide us with the flexibility of the types of uses that would be appropriate for this site. So that's why we went with the plan district. That will only be applicable to these 2 parcels. That will only be applicable to these 2 parcels unless the council wants to expand it at some point. So the master plan that was, again, conditionally approved proposes 48,000 square feet of commercial space on Lot 23 and 218 multifamily dwelling units on Lot 24. Although Coventry does not have a mandatory inclusionary LMI requirement, the ordinance proposes that 15% of the housing units be dedicated to LMI units. I am going to have Mr. Eden come up and discuss our change from 18% to 15%. We had that conversation with the planning board. I think they understood, and they agreed to recommend the 15%. This project could be phased because what we're proposing is actually the multifamily on 1 lot and the commercial on another lot, so that creates some flexibility as well. I think that's really it. Madam, have Joe Lombardo come up because I do understand that that's really important to you. So just introduce yourself. I'll stand by and ask you a question. We need to.
Good evening, members of the council. For the record, my name is Joseph Lombardo. I have a home office in Westerly, Rhode Island. I did prepare this report recently for your consideration as part of this project. And it is, it's an estimate for the council to see, how this really affects you from a financial point of view. And I certainly sat through your budget conscious folks here, and there's a very important part of any project is to know what it means to your community. So what I'll do is I'll give you a summary of it, and then I'll give you a little bit on how I prepared that, so when you do have the opportunity to read it, you'll understand how I arrived at that. We spend a fair amount of time with the applicant to try to figure out as best we can potential assessed values of these properties if they were all in existence today. So we're using today's tax rate basically, and these assessments that we're projecting will give you an idea on the revenue side what to expect from this. We go a little step further and we try to give you an idea on what the expenses are. And on commercial properties, I use what's called a cost of services based on land use. And a commercial project is usually 30 cents on every dollar goes to municipal services to support that. And primarily that might be police and fire and safety, that type of thing. On the residential side, we also look at all municipal expenses, and we look at the impact on your Department of Education. So this will also include an estimate of how many people will live here and how many school-age children will live here. And just to give you a little preface on that, the type of development, and when I say type, the size of the units, the number of bedrooms in those units, really dictates whether or not there'll be school-age children there. And I'll get into that, and you'll be able to look at that when you have time to read the report. But in essence, the two components together, if they were all in, is I take your current budget, I take your current school budget portion of it, I look at housing units, I look at your population. I take your current enrollment in school, and as it was pointed out earlier, those numbers have been going down. They've been going down in most communities over the last 10 to 20 years. But that doesn't mean that your school budget goes down. Those school budgets tend to keep going up. There's just less students. So it gives me an opportunity to figure out how much it costs per person to live in Coventry for municipal services and how much to educate a student. But the first important part of this is to estimate the number of people, and I have that in the report, whereas the one-bedroom units, I'm estimating to be 1.5 persons occupying that, so it could be a single person or a couple. It's a one-bedroom unit. There's 110 of those. And then the two-bedroom, I'm estimating is 2.1. So in other words, the 0.1 is 10 school-age children per 100 units. And I'll explain how we arrive at that number. That's for two-bedroom apartments. So that gives us the numbers of 396 residents and 11 school-age children. And again, you'll see that in my report on how I come up with those numbers, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a minute.
I have a question right here.
I'm sorry.
What kind of, are these condos? You said apartments. Are they rentals?
Apartments,
They're for rent. People are not buying them.
correct.
So what kind of tax do we get from rentals?
That was the next page. Okay. So there's a couple ways that your assessor may look at these. They may eventually do an income approach to this project, but we used an assessed value per unit as they're going to be built. They need to start with something at the beginning, like how much they're going to cost to build. So we came up with a number of an average between the one-bedroom and the two-bedroom, and I'm lumping all the units together at a separate property value, and that will be at your residential rate. And then I have the 48,000 square feet of retail and restaurant buildings at $500 a square foot, and that includes the land. So all total, if we put those all together, I come out to $1,228,000 in revenue. And remember, this is property tax only. There are additional revenues that you'd get, one-time fees, building permits, the site plan process going through the town, sewer and water connections, those types of things. Those would be recurring, but sometimes there's a connection fee and then there's annual on top of that. So that's the revenue side of it. On the expense side, I take those 11 pupils and I multiply times the net cost per student to educate, because Coventry gets money from the state of Rhode Island, as do all communities in Rhode Island. And I also take the number per person for providing municipal services. The total of those two is $483,000. Then I take, as I explained at the beginning, on the commercial side of the project, where we're generating a good portion of the income there, 30% of that, I'm saying, goes for municipal services. So there's another 378,000 that's clear to the community there because it's only using 30% of the expenses. So we put them all together. We have total municipal costs, total school costs of 646,000, total estimated revenue at 1.2 million, which leaves a net of 581,000 that you, as a community, would be able to use to offset any and all expenses in your community. That's the fiscal side of it. Just to give you a little bit about working with the school-age children, I have a lot of good data in the report that you'll have an opportunity to look at some point. There's some new data because there's been an awful lot of large-scale apartment-type buildings and projects going up around Rhode Island. And I have some data from those that I was able to get from another company that is putting those units up. And I'm pretty comfortable with that number of 10 school-age children per 100 units of these 2-bedroom type units. I'm not projecting any students in the 1-bedrooms. And you'll see all of those sources of information that I have here that I'm pretty confident that that's what you're going to see. And then at the very end of the report, Star Capital provided you some additional economic and fiscal information, which talks about the types of employees that you could expect on that commercial side of it. So there's a total estimated jobs of 104. And then that really is another nice addition to your community when you have employees working in your community. They're spending money in your community. They may move into your community. And lastly, I'll just touch on that affordable housing component. You're adding, if you approve the 15%, it's another 33 units towards your goal of 10%. And I'm sure Doug can explain that if you don't have that readily in hand. And so really, from an economic point of view, from a fiscal point of view, it is a positive to the community. And I'd be happy to answer the questions. I know I gave you a lot in a short amount of time, and you haven't obviously had a chance to read this, but we can certainly get back to you if you have further questions. I'll be happy to answer those for you.
Solicitor Angel, did you want to speak to the LMI piece before I open it up to the council, or?
I think you should finish with the expert if you
Okay.
finished with him. But I did want to speak about some of the changes that I see. I'm working through.
Mhm.
Some of the changes I wanted to point out to the council.
Okay. Councilman Hool, I think you had your hand up.
For me, I first thank you for wanting to invest in the town of Coventry. I think we all want some investment here. So some of my critiques are not going to be based on that. I work with low income and very wealthy people on a daily basis. I think there was a lot of talk in the planning meeting, and I've watched it twice, about doing your fair share. And I think you guys have done a great job. A lot of reports. That planning committee meeting was really informative. But I would rather see this town allow you to get rid of a fake roof line and put some money back in your pockets and keep the 18%. I think we can cut some of the red tape here for businesses and for developments, clearing of land, putting in roads. You guys are spending a boatload of money. I get it. I work with developers. I understand that.
Mr. Eden is going to.
I just want to ensure, I work a lot with the Rhode Island Land Trust and Melina over there on Post Road. She sent me a data. I shared it with it. We're currently at 6.6% of our 10% goal. I strongly would just ask you, help us get there, and we'll help you. It's I would not support a 15%. I think it's important for us to allow those less fortunate than us. We're all able to eat well at night, and we're all able to drive nice cars. And it's our job, it's our civic duty to help those less fortunate for whatever choices they may have made. That's not up to me to judge. Everything else in here, I think, thank you.
I just want, Madam President, to know that we do have Tim Eden here who wants to address the LMI issue.
I want to address the LMI issue, if I may, Madam.
Yes.
Is there any other questions for me?
Um,
I'm going to just sit here, but I'm just asking.
no, we're going to let the solicitor comment.
So I've reviewed the Planning Commission recommendation memorandum, okay? And I've worked with Doug on the changes that we knew that were coming by line item, okay? The planning staff nor myself were aware of what was proposed on the floor of the Planning Commission meeting in a reduction from 18% to 15%. That was not part of the original, that was not part of the original proposal. And as you can see from the memorandum, and I'll read it, planning staff was not aware of these changes, nor was I. And they want to change it from 18 to 15. To Councilman Hull's point, what the planning department has been doing and what we've been talking about in connection with the solicitor's office, we need to get our numbers up. You're absolutely right. And they knew that when this project was put on the table. This is news to me. So with respect, you get recommendations from the Planning Commission. It's new to this council, okay? You get a recommendation. That's what it is. It's a recommendation. You get to choose what to do with the ordinance after your testimony's done. That's the point I'd like to make to you and for you to consider as you hear the rest of the testimony. Thank you.
If I may, one more time, Madam. You know, there was a recent study by CNBC that nearly 44 million Americans will hit 80 years old. And we only have roughly 4,000 senior housing units being developed. Anything that would take away from senior housing, from low-income housing, I would ask every single person up here to take that into serious consideration. Because if you haven't worked with those folks who just want an opportunity or a little child to be able to have a dream of buying a house one day or living in a new building that they're proud of, and I would strongly, I would ask you guys to just see what you can do there. And again, what we're talking about, there was faux roof lines. Like, what's the cost there to the developers? Let's cut some of that red tape and let's bargain there. Some of the things that have been proposed is kind of like, does it really matter what our roof lines look like on a daily basis? That's the red tape that we should be worried about. And then I think we could hit our 18% and our 10% townwide goal.
Anything else from the council before we go back to the applicant? All right, yep.
So we really appreciate your comments, and my client totally understands the LMI issue. I want you to know that, and you may know this, he's also developing a lot of property over at Center of New England.
And that's why I thanked you first.
Right. So I just want you to know the background, and then Mr. Eden's going to explain his take on the LMI issue. So when we started proposing development for Center of New England, there's actually a restriction and a consent order, not by any of you, but
With respect, we're not talking about this tonight. It's not on the agenda.
it's a public hearing on the zone change.
Public hearing on this zone change, not on Center of New England, Madam President.
Yep, he's right. We need to stick to the conference center.
Right, but we're talking about the reason for the 18% and why it was lowered to 15%. So
But
the
one project shouldn't influence another, no?
it does. It absolutely does, because the 18% was offered for Center of New England based on a certain set of circumstances that don't exist with this project. And I'll tell you that the ordinance that was originally proposed for this project was, there was a provision that said that Mr. Eden could place any of his units on any property that he controlled, which would have been a more feasible.
Let me ask this then. Why did this change come at the 11th hour and planning staff wasn't notified ahead of the planning commission meeting? Because can you see how that kind of feels a little disingenuous that there was a proposed reduction in percentage?
We had a discussion with the planning board, and Mr.
No, at the meeting, but I'm saying
know.
that was kind of sprung on, that the memo we received from planning is that they were only just notified of that at that public
They
meeting.
were, that's absolutely.
It was never like discussed ahead of time. Am I speaking out of turn, Mr. McLean?
I'm agreeing with you, Madam
Oh,
President.
but I think that's the point here is it seems like it kind of swooped in at the last second without conversation ahead of time with staff and was kind of
Actually,
thrown on the planning commission
it
in
would be
public.
thrown, but the reason why it came up in the planning board, one of the planning board members said, I'm not going to approve that reduction. But by the end of our conversation, they understood and they approved it. And we're just asking you to listen. And like I said, we'd love to talk to you in another couple of weeks once you have a chance to digest this information. But I'd like Mr. Eden to have an opportunity to give you the why. Because, you know, we love this project. We think it's going to be great for Coventry, but he wants to be able to build it. And it's, you know, it has to be financially feasible. So, go ahead.
So it's Tim Eden for the record. It's 18 Lanark, Wellesley, Mass. And so on the subject of affordables, we did agree to 18% initially with staff, with the condition that we would be able to move around and put the affordable housing on other sites. And the reason for that is because it's very expensive to build affordable housing. It's a loser. And part of the financing strategy is the tax credits. And so when you have a dedicated building for affordables, you're eligible for low-income housing tax credits. It defrays your cost, and it is a very popular avenue for building affordables in the state of Rhode Island and across the country. It's a HUD program. It's been around 30 years. So that's the low-income housing tax credit. It's very cumbersome. It takes a long time to get done, and it's very uncertain. And so what we found in our other projects is that we could not rely on that. So we're making a commitment to the community for affordable housing, delivering affordable housing units. And yet, if we can't offer a definitive timeline, then we really can't provide anything and any sort of guarantee. So what we've done is we've gone to a for sale strategy on the other properties, which is that the affordables are going to be satisfied through the sale of the assets. And we've concluded that the tax credit strategy is fundamentally flawed. The costs are very, very high because of the bureaucratic bloat that goes along with it, and the timeline is just too long. So in the case of Coventry Center, we want to do those units on site, and working with the planning staff, they really came back and said, we want you to do those affordables on site. We can't have a condition upon moving the affordable housing to other sites. So we said, fine. We'll do it on site. And then, of course, at the 11th hour, we said, how about if we go to 15% because we have to do those in building, and it is a loser. It is cumbersome. And so the point is that in building, when you're building an apartment building and you're providing those units in building, it's very expensive. And if sometimes you hear these numbers, 20, 25%, it is a real burden, and it kills projects dead. So what is the appropriate number is the question. And we felt like in doing our financial analysis and talking with our investors, that 18% was going to be a stretch. So that's why we came back to 15%. We thought that was economically viable, and this project could get launched. And there aren't any other apartment buildings really planned for Coventry because they are cumbersome, they are expensive, and they're very tricky to get financed. We do have another phase over on Arnold Road that we're trying to get off the ground, and it's not easy. In the environment they're in, there's a lot of challenges to getting these things off the ground. So that's why we asked for the reduction to 15 and why the planning board was sympathetic.
Councilman Hul.
Again, for me, it's hard. I have not seen the data of the price per square foot for your builds. In a changing down market with interest rates, you're able to charge more for the apartments. So to say that it's a loss, and to see, especially with Coventry Center, where you guys, it's not building just an apartment building, you have a balance here between some commercial, and I don't want to sound off here, but I find it hard to think that you're actually losing money. I know that the cost of clearing the land and putting that, like, you guys have done some incredible work. I've watched that meeting twice. I've reviewed the packet. My notes are deep. I'm just summarizing them here for you. Again, I want to see you continue to build in Coventry, and I'd love to find another even ground here where we can, let's address some of the other issues. But I am die hard in my convictions. I work with these people on a daily basis, and when I hand keys to a little kid who's never dreamed about having something like that, I don't think there's anything you could say up there that is going to make me not think of that child. getting that. So I just ask you, please, like, let's find something somewhere. Let's propose something. You're asking to go from 39, if I'm doing my math right, 39 units to 33 units would be the reduction between 18% and 15%. I don't see a cost of what you're gonna lose, quote unquote, on the 6 units. Yeah, it's hard for me. This is a hard, I understand that developers, you have people that you have to keep happy and you have to keep your numbers in order and it's expensive. And I understand that. But is there anything in this proposal that it's gonna stop you from going from a rental base to a sale base? Because that's really would change a lot of things. Your rent, your ROI on your rentals is gonna be a lot further out than it's gonna be if you flip these into, we'll say, condos or something to that effect. I'm all for giving you the zoning change. I'm all for, like, let's see what we can do to help you. You've been a good investor in town. So now I'm asking you to see what you can do to help us.
Appreciate that. And I think what we wanted to do was do rental here. And if it was a sale project, then the numbers would be a little bit different. Okay, but
Would we be able to, let's say the council wanted to approve the 15%, put a contingency where you can't sell, right? Because that's what I would propose, and I wouldn't want to put that contingency on you.
you mean sell as condos?
Yeah, like, let's say you got halfway through and said, we give you the 15%, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I'm just going to sell these as condos. Well, now this entire conversation we had was null and void because it didn't matter. You ended up switching the strategy anyway. And I'm not stating that, I'm just using your own words that you switched the last project from a rental to a sale. And I just go back to saying, okay, we're only talking 6 units here. Let's find other ways where we can help you. Again, I'm going to go back to, because it sticks with me, like a fake roof line. How much is that costing you? 25K? You know what I mean? Like, let's find something there that we can address this.
For sure, we did argue for flat roofs with parapet walls, and the planning director agreed with that. I guess I would say that we're asking for the consideration, and there are a lot of costs here that we have not foreseen, for sure. There are a lot of site costs there, and we have other challenges ahead of us. We have infrastructure challenges that you're well aware of on New London Turnpike that we're dealing with. We'd like a little more certainty on that right now, which we do not have, but we'll be back. We'll be back to you soon. But the other thing I would mention is that we did facilitate legislation with the state for a tax stabilization agreement, which you're familiar with. And that is a tax abatement during the ramp up of rental communities. And that is a very real thing. And that will come back before you for approval for this project. So I would say that
I would support that to get you to develop here. I haven't seen it, obviously, so it's a blind statement, but we can work on those things. But I'm just going to urge you to look at those 6 units, not as units. Look at them as people.
Councilwoman Capaldi.
I'm just curious to know what kind of research has gone into how many people want to rent here in Coventry.
what is the depth of the market for rental property?
Here in Coventry, yeah.
Well, we think it is strong. There is really only one major apartment project in the near area. It's actually in West Greenwich on Center New England Boulevard, and it is substantially leased, and the rents are very strong there. If that's any indication, there aren't a lot of apartment communities in Coventry, and that's one of the
There
reasons
isn't.
we saw the opportunity because of all the commerce and the location on 95. We felt like there was a lot of demand, and the investment community has been very positive. It's not to say that we don't have the investment interest, which we do, but the costs are a factor, and costs are up across the board, not just site costs, but vertical costs are a major problem. And you want to encourage construction. The only thing I would say about the affordable, at some point it breaks apart. And so, what is the appropriate number? And you want to get to 10%, we're pushing to 15% to try and, bridge that and help you get over the 10% hurdle. But if you said 25%, I would say we're out. So in other words, it breaks apart at some point. And you want to encourage construction. You don't want to discourage construction. And that's what the higher rates do.
Ask her, she would tell you, there's a housing crisis in Rhode Island and in Coventry. So there are waiting lists for people that want to rent. And market rate also, just building the market rate units it's a supply and demand issue too. It's not just the LMI. It's also if there's more supply and less demand, the rents go down too. So, you know, there is a rent, housing, any kind of housing crisis. So that's just a fact.
What would you, what's the going rate for these apartments?
So right now, Rhode Island is actually, it's mostly all of Rhode Island, first of all. Coventry is located in, I think it's called, what is it? Greater Providence area. There's a few communities that are outside of this. So the area median income for a one-bedroom is about 80,000. The rent is going to be about 1,800. And those are your, you know, what I tell people, those are your teachers, your firefighters, your laborers, your new professionals, your elderly, right? People who want to downsize and they don't want to, you know, they need money out of their equity to have a good retirement. So it's those type of people that you're going to see living there. Two bedroom. Yeah, that includes utilities. Correct. And then for a two bedroom, it's a little over 2,000 a month. Again, including utilities. The rent goes down as the utilities go up. So. Madam President, we also have Josh Rosen who can explain the site design to you. We have Bob Clinton here if you have any questions about traffic. I don't want to belabor. I know you have a lot on your
Yeah,
agenda.
no, we'll hear from site design and traffic, sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the council. For the record, Josh Rosen, Rhode Island professional engineer with VHB, office at 1 Cedar Street in Providence. If we could have a site plan on the screen, that would be wonderful. Next slide. Okay, sorry, slide 2. Keep going. Great. So obviously the backdrop.
Bodie, can you just zoom in a little bit? Thanks.
The backdrop for the zoning that you're reviewing was obviously the initial site design and the objectives of the applicant and Mr. Eden's team on what they want to do at these properties. But it had a heavy hand with as far as the sites themselves, what we could reasonably accommodate. So I just want to maybe give you a few highlights about how we arrived at this layout and what some of the site characteristics were that were considered. Because truly, like, we kind of did this backwards from the normal process. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a Starbucks in there?
Could be. It says coffee shop right now. So it was kind of like backwards. In other words, the site and the surrounding area dictated how this design was laid out. Specifically, the design that you see in front of you was shown and approved at master plan by the planning department. It includes a development on both lot 23 and 24, 666 Arnold Road and 2271 New London Turnpike. Page left, or page left, let's say, that's the commercial retail component of the project. So as you see, there's an array of approximately 9 buildings, totaling 48,000 square feet of one level, one story footprint. And what we developed here is just with the client's direction and the applicant's direction is a mixed use or a potential flexible package for retail and commercial uses. On the right-hand side, page right, within lot 24 is the residential program, the multifamily residential program, 218 units right now planned within those 4 buildings that you see. But in order to kind of arrive at this sort of layout and density, if you will, we really took into consideration a few things. One, the access and the potential, traffic circulation coming onto and out of both sides of the project on Arnold Road and New London Turnpike. Our traffic team worked pretty rigorously at the outset of this planning stage to sort of look at particular locations for the 4 planned entrance exits to the properties. And so those were positioned first and foremost with an eye toward what we knew was coming for traffic. And as Mr. Houle noted, that there was this extensive discussion at planning about what was done on our traffic study in as far as projecting out what some future developments in the area would contribute to the roadway system and also what this project would contribute to the roadway system. So we had an eye toward that. We also looked at things in neighboring districts, zoning districts, some of the open space requirements, some of the parking requirements, things that had to do with like landscape buffers. And we tried to apply and exceed as many of those parameters in the site design. And in other words, like parking spaces were identified for the proposed commercial and retail uses. We did a study on some other developments. We found that 1.5 spaces per unit on the residential side, coupled with 4 spaces per 1,000 square foot on the commercial side, were a very appropriate representation for our parking demands for the project, given that, frankly, right now, at least on the commercial side, we know that we're asking for a balance or a blend of potentially various uses in that ordinance. So we looked at neighboring properties as another option, another element of the site design. We know that this project was industrially zoned. We had an eye toward the fact that moving from center and New England, we're kind of getting in a transitional area here. The industrial zone probably offers the most blunt transition from or to the residential. We tried to blend the commercial along Arnold Road with then residential on the second half of the parcel. But in doing so, you'll see in the ordinance the various landscape buffers that were left between property, to the north and page right, to sort of identify a way to buffer the single-family residences from this project. We had buffering along the street between the parking and the main roads, which would include a landscape component. We kept a vision for the overall open space on the project, including areas that we know down the road are going to be needed for stormwater, but also landscape and amenity space. So there's been a hefty percentage provided in that ordinance that would allow this property to still have a considerable amount of green space, given the build out that we've shown on the site package. So there's just a couple of components that went into the thought process, the consideration for the design that had, the team and specifically Ms. Morris Salvador's group being able to craft the ordinance in a way that we feel positive about, that the site sort of fits with what's being proposed here. As you see on the site design, there is certainly room to say that this hasn't been overdeveloped the way we've presented it. And that was one of the objectives of Mr. Even and his team, to provide a really benchmark project here, placemaking project, something that's not overreaching for the area and for the property itself. So,
Any questions, discussion from the council? Thank you.
thank you.
Before Mr. Clinton gets up to talk about traffic, Doug pointed out something to me tonight. Another item of discussion before the planning board was the fact that we included a medical type use, but Doug actually found that there were a walk-in clinic, is that what it's called? I actually have it on here.
Yes,
Walk-in and urgent care.
I think the language that we were considering was walk-in and urgent care. This is in the category of changes that there was some discussion prior to the August meeting. In fact, it was discussed at the July meeting, this concept. There were no concerns on staff's end. It's essentially just another use that they wanted next to dental office, medical office, having a walk-in clinic as an ability there. No concerns on our end, but I don't think that edit made it into
Right.
the latest changes.
So I'm expecting that you're going to continue this based on the original discussion about the fiscal impact study. I can add that in and give you new copies.
So what we'll do, Madam President, if I may, through the chair, I have the changes. I've compared them to the original draft. We'll make the changes to the original draft in my office. We'll call it a sub A, okay, which the council would consider as a substitute bill. They're not substantive changes. And we can talk before you wrap this up about where we are and what the council will want to see at its next hearing on this.
Does the council want to hear from traffic as well? Or are you good? You like to hear? Okay.
Good evening, council members. My name is Bob Clinton, for the record. I'll try and keep it brief. We did go through a very extensive traffic study, including 12 developments. Some of them are in front of the town now, and some of them are just thoughts in the future. So we included projects that aren't even on the docket and aren't in front of the town today. So our proposed improvements, and Josh stole a lot of my thunder about the location of the driveways and locating the full access driveways as far away from the intersection as possible. And the two driveways closest to the intersection, the one on Arnold Road and the one on New London Turnpike, are right in, right outs. So your main activity is going to happen far enough away from the intersection. We've also proposed off-site mitigation to accommodate not just our project, but those future 12 projects, our front door impacts. In front of our site on Arnold and in front of our site on New London Turnpike. We've also come up with a comprehensive off-site improvement plan that can be divvied up into all of these 12 future projects, so everybody can pay their fair share of the proposed improvements that are needed. We've also discussed petitions that the town and its adjacent towns can also put in front of the DOT to implement improvements. For example, the I-95 North ramp, it currently meets the warrants for a traffic signal without our project, without any of these other projects. So the town can petition the DOT to have the State Traffic Commission look into installing a traffic signal at that location. With the new state police barracks going in over there, we think that's a good thing for the town to pursue. We can help assist with that or whatever, we're in favor of that too. So there's other improvements along there that each of the projects as they go forward can pitch in and help make those improvements.
Councilman Brown.
Are there traffic lights always for Arnold Road and the London Turnpike? It ain't.
No, there's no new traffic signal. What's gonna happen is when you see unsignalized intersections in proximity to an existing traffic signal, there's platoons of cars that go through there. And you'll see a period when you have no gaps, and then the signal will change and there'll be a gap and allow traffic to enter and exit the site.
I do agree that 95 North to the London Turnpike needs a traffic light.
Yep.
Councilman Hool. You good?
I just wanted to thank them. They've done a lot of work. If you haven't, I'd encourage everyone to go back and watch that planning committee. You guys have put a tremendous amount of work in. You've done a lot of your fair share. They've talked about synchronizing lights and advocating for things that, are not on a dime to us. So although I'm critical, I'm thankful. I just I wanted to put that out there. I appreciate you guys investing in Coventry. I want to be business friendly. I want to be development friendly, but we have to do it in a smart way. And thank you. I wanted to make sure I clarified that.
Thanks. Thank you. So at this point, I'll give one last call to the public in the room or on Zoom if they have any additional comment on the further presentation. Otherwise, we'll close public hearing and you can't, oh, that's right, you can't close them, so.
You'll continue the public
Continue it,
hearing
that's
to a
right.
date certain. And what I would recommend to the council, given what I've heard here tonight, you've received the fiscal impact study. My understanding, Mr. Lombardo provided that study at 5 o'clock this evening.
Well, the clerk printed it out.
So you folks now have that.
Yep.
So you have a chance. I would also think it wise that the administration and Mr. Savetti take a look at that as well. And if they need a peer review, that's up to them internally, but so that the council has some better sense of what it's looking at. There was another comment I had as you contemplate another meeting. Certainly. There was if you look at your planning commission recommendation memorandum from Director McLean, he makes it clear that his department didn't have a chance to sit with this reduction from 18% to 15%. Sitting here tonight, it would be wise to get his opinion on it. He's not had a chance to look at this. So that was something that was done on the fly at the meeting, and he indicated to me that, they would like to take a look at it.
Although that may be a statement in the planning committee's recommendation to us, you guys are okay with that. So I just want to make sure I don't want to see any, I want to make sure no one's backtracking here. You guys sent us a recommendation and I watched that meeting. I watched it twice in its entirety. I talked to Melina about it. She advocated for me to be borderline here and to be careful and to advocate, but to do it in a fiscal responsible way. But if I just heard that comment correctly, the planning committee is now saying, oh, wait, we didn't approve it. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that.
No, the planning commission made the recommendation, and their recommendation was positive. And my guidance to the planning commission when this came up on the floor of the meeting last week is the same as I'll give you the guidance. The number of affordables and the percentage of affordables is a policy choice. I, as staff, can only let you know that I care a great amount about making sure we get a good percentage of affordables in these projects. I'll let the applicant make their case in terms of financial hardship, and certainly they're welcome to inform you as a policymaker. I can only tell you that number, whether it's 15% or 18%, you had said your full discretion. The Planning Commission did recommend positively on 15. We did not at a staff level see it, so it was new to us. That's, I think, ultimately, I wanted to make sure it was clear. There were certain changes that were desired to the ordinance that were very familiar to staff and that were vetted. That one change did not have the same benefit of vetting that the other changes had. That's what I think I'll leave you with.
Thank you.
Just
Verducci.
thank you. One question, just to give me an idea. 6 units, let's say. What's the big picture pie of that? As far as moving the needle on I'm wearing the thousands or.
Every unit counts. Every unit's important. I mean, we're a community of 15,000 households, and we're a community that is at 6% and change. I think every unit counts in order to get closer to 10%. I can tell you that we work hard at it. There's a lot of projects recently that have come before us in which we're getting a good percentage. Some of them are at 18%, some of them are at 20%. We're getting some applications that are comprehensive permits. If they give us 25%, they get certain leverages in terms of their allowances. I like the idea that we're getting a good amount of affordable, deed-restricted affordable housing, because that is our workforce housing. I mean, the price of housing for an average person, it's starting to become very unachievable. And I'd love to see that 6.5 number get very close to 10 in the next 5 years as these projects that we're reviewing now get fully built out. So I think every unit counts, but I think that the applicant's making a case that there's a financial hardship that they wish to bring to your attention, and you can consider that as well.
So if there's no further discussion, I guess, oh, sorry. Yes, still open. Yeah, sure. Just come on up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Tom Pendergast, 6 White Rock Road here in Coventry. So I wondered if I could ask the experts here tonight if they could comment on the stormwater program. There's a lot of new impermeable surfaces going in, and I'd be concerned as to how much of that ends up in Tioga Lake, and especially if it's not treated before it gets there.
Yeah, Josh Rosen, VHB. Great question. Certainly a very important point. The stormwater for this project, just like any other we deal with in town, will be addressed at the next, theoretically, the next planning submission through the process of what we call preliminary design. But the location or approximate property area to the lake will be considered as part of our analysis and the rules and regulations put forth on us with the DEM. So our treatment level for stormwater will be addressed, our water quality, that is, at the next phase, with an eye toward impacts to all downstream properties and the water resource areas as well. That site design we showed earlier does plan for areas and potential for more stormwater on this property than what would normally be required. We've reserved areas knowing that we would have to deal with that important topic. So anything related to the volume and rate of runoff, and like I said, the water quality treatment, as well as, general soil erosion and that sort of thing during construction and after the site stabilized will all be part of the design level component for a project like this. So.
Last call on public hearing on this item. So in terms of a continuing to a date certain, it would be September 23rd or October 14th. I don't know what time frame is needed for. No, it's according to the council meeting schedule, it's 23rd and it's the second and fourth Tuesday. I'll go verify, but. No, I'm talking about for September, but he's talking about in October. It says 14th and 28th. There was mention of October 7th in here earlier. That's why, just making sure. Yeah, it's 14th. So I'm asking staff what they need, because I know there's talk about the urgent care piece, the planning staff wanting to review the potential reduction to 15.
I'm reading off of the other staff that probably have a bigger role in the fiscal review. I don't think that a peer review is necessary, but obviously Mr. Savetti has not reviewed this document that everyone just received tonight. I've seen reports from Mr. Lombardo before. They're certainly well-researched and they're well-founded. I'm sure that his numbers are accurate. It's ultimately up to the council on how much the fiscal impact of the project will impact your review and how much you want an additional, let's just say, review or vetting of this document prior to making any decisions. I don't think that it's something that takes more than 2 weeks.
Okay. I'd also say additionally, I think what I'm making an assumption on behalf of my colleagues, if we can be shown what the amount is that you would be saving and moving down, like help articulate the hardship with data. Not, don't just say it's going to be really difficult. Like, yes, like really, like don't just say it's going to be really difficult. Times are tough. Like show me that financial data that shows this is what we stand to eat or what it would cost. Like help, because right now the fiscal impact statement we're shown assumes the 15. So if we can see the difference, I think that would be helpful. Vice President Verducci. You're good? All right, then we will continue to September 23rd. Do I hear a motion to continue this matter to September 23rd?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Capaldi, second by Councilman Pasqua. Yep. Do we need that in part of the motion? So the motion is continue to September 23rd and leave public hearing open. Are you guys good with amending motion? Okay. If there's no further discussion, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua? Councilmember Capaldi?
Yes.
Councilmember Hul?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis?
Yes.
Vice President Verducci?
Yes.
President Lima?
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Great, thank you. We'll now move to licenses. We have one this evening, new victualling license, Longshore Coffee LLC, 315 South Main Street, per Coventry Code Chapter 153-2 and 153-3. Madam Clerk, I don't see an indication all requirements have been met. Can you just provide some updates on that?
All the requirements have been met.
Okay. Hi, you just want to introduce yourself, state your name and address for the record.
I'm Stephen Miller. I'm the owner of Longshore Coffee, also 21 Cassidy Trail here in Coventry.
Oh, great. Any discussion for the applicant? All right, if there's none, do I hear a motion to approve the license?
Make a motion to approve the license, and I'm glad you're a Coventry resident and you decided to build here in Coventry. Thank you.
We actually, if I may, we chose to build here both our house and our business together. So we want to keep the money here, reinvest.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilman Brown. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Capaldi. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Pasqua, Councilmember Capaldi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hul,
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis,
Yes.
Vice President Verducci,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Councilman Hu was asking why,
Just,
was it written on there that it had?
I'm new here, so I'm learning your processes. But last one had a green highlighted box that said all items had been met. I look for that, so when I don't see it, I'm just looking for a standard. If I don't see it, I just think we don't have everything met. And there was a question in regards to a last agenda item that was on there about licensing. So just, could you please, for me, makes me not so crazy.
All right, election, moving to election and or appointment of town officials. We have a few this evening. Madam Clerk, you said Mr. Xavier is ill again tonight? Or couldn't make it?
Last time he was out of town, this time he's ill.
Okay, so we'll have to wait on that one. The Assessment Board of Review, we have one applicant this evening. I believe this is District 1. Kenneth De Silva. Is Mr. De Silva here? Hi. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
More of a comment. Ken, can you come forward, please? So I've known Ken for quite a while. He's an amazing man. Within 2 days, 9/11 is on our doorstep, 24 years. This man has dedicated his life to protecting our country, and I want to thank him personally for your service to our country, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, it would be a pleasure to recommend Ken for a position on the Zoning Board of Review.
We have a motion from Councilman Brown. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Pasqua. Any discussion?
No, besides, thank you. That's an impressive resume. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I said Assessment Board of Review. Yeah. If there's no further discussion, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Capaldi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hul,
Of course, yeah.
Councilmember DeLellis,
Yes.
Vice President Verducci,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I've never seen Carrie that excited.
Wow.
Well, now moving to the Coventry Redevelopment Agency, there's one vacancy. We have one applicant, George R. Polly. Is he present this evening? Welcome. Just if you want to come forward and state your name and address to the record and introduce yourself.
I pronounce my name Polly, and I live at 280 Hill Farm Road. And I know no one knows me because I've only been a resident of Coventry for a little under 2 years. And I was looking for something to do and something to volunteer. My history, I'm a Vietnam vet, and I'm a retired mathematics teacher. And back when I raised my family in Seekonk, I was a member of the Seekonk Lions for about 40 years, and we did a lot of community projects. And I was on the Seekonk Board of Selectmen as a chairman for a couple of years. And that's my history. And I've been watching the agency in their meetings online, and I think it's something that can help.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions for the applicant? What's the pleasure of the council?
Make a motion to appoint George Pauly, but did I say that right? I'm sorry.
Foley.
Pauly.
Thank you.
RDA.
Motion by Councilman Pasqua,
I'll second it.
second by Vice President Verducci. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua, Councilmember Capaldi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hul,
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis,
Yes.
Vice President Verducci,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Thank you. I'll try to do a good job.
We're moving now to Coventry Historic Preservation Commission. We have two folks looking to renew their terms, Nicholas Longo and Norma Smith. Does the council have any questions or discussion for the applicants? What's the pleasure of the council?
Make a motion to reappoint Nicholas Longo and Norma Smith to the Coventry Historic Preservation Commission as a whole. Can I do both?
I'll second that.
Motion by Councilman Pasco, second by Councilman Hool. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua, Councilmember Capaldi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hul,
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis,
Yes.
Vice President Verducci,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Next, we have the council committees. Councilmember had requested to put this on here because we have two new members. And we just wanted to see if what new members were interested in, or if members that had asked to be on another committee previously would like to change. The two members that resigned were on the same committee, so that finance committee has not been able to meet since the spring. So I just wanted to get a sense from council members what we wanted to do for those committees. We do have things that have been referred to licenses and safety services that need to be heard. And the finance committee was a great tool. The one time it was able to meet to go over in more detail some items around the budget season. So I'll just open it up for discussion, but we do really we need at least 3 members of the council on each. That's not to say other council members can't go to the committee meeting and participate in the discussion. They just wouldn't be a voting member of that committee. So, so I'll just open up the floor.
You're looking for only specifically council members? We already have that filled. Is that only a council member committee? I'm new to that
Well,
one now.
I don't know if, so I believe all the folks to my right are safety services. I don't know if they want to continue on that or switch, or the other thing too is you and Councilman DeLellis don't have any committee assignment. But like I said, we do need 2 more council members to sit, to be appointed to finance, so that can actually meet. Right now it cannot. We don't have any council members besides Vice President Verducci on that.
I'll take finance committee. Let's do it.
Okay.
Any public on there, or is it just council members?
Just council.
Okay, let's go.
Sure.
Oh, another party?
Councilman DeLellis, your finance?
Sure.
Okay. All right. I don't, so I'll entertain a motion to appoint Councilman Hool and Councilman DeLellis to the Council of Finance.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilman Capaldi,
Second.
second by Councilman Pasqua. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Capaldi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hul,
Abstain.
Councilmember DeLellis,
Abstain.
Vice President Verducci,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
5 in the affirmative, 2 abstentions, motion passes.
I'm gonna jump down because I know we have some people waiting. I'll go to town officers and officials. We have John Potvin here, Chief of Hopkins Hill Fire District, with a request for opioid funds. This is on pages 60 to 61 in our packets. Chief, just make sure the microphone's on and state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Good evening. John Potvin, Chief of the Hopkins Hill Fire District, also a Coventry resident. I reside at 99 Reservoir Road in Coventry. Good evening, Madam President and members of the council. On behalf of the 4 Coventry Fire Districts, Central Coventry, Coventry, Hopkins Hill, and Western Coventry, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about our joint request for $282,345 from the town's opioid settlement funds. This request is for the purchase of 4 Stryker LifePak 35 cardiac monitor defibrillators, 1 for each district. These monitors are critical tools in today's emergency response. We know that the opioid overdoses often carry a high risk of cardiac arrest. Having the most advanced, reliable equipment available directly impacts patient outcomes and save lives in those moments when every second matters. Right now, our districts are relying on equipment that is aging and near the end of its serviceable life. Replacing them with these new units will ensure consistent, modern capabilities across the town, strengthening both our response to opioid-related emergencies and overall our public safety readiness. Importantly, this initiative directly aligns with the settlement's approved purposes, treating and mitigating opioid-related disorders, addressing misuse, and reducing the strain of the epidemic on the public safety system. We believe this investment is not only appropriate under the settlement guidelines, but vital to protecting the health and safety of Coventry residents. Thank you for your consideration and continued support of our mission.
Thank you. I don't know if there's any discussion or questions from the council, but I do believe that the council would need to direct, if they wanted to move forward this, to a resolution that be formed. We can't, we just vote on.
Just a memorandum of understanding.
Yeah.
So you need 2 things. They would enter into a memorandum of understanding so that if funds are misused, they would be responsible for that under the settlement terms of the litigation. That's number 1. And number 2, the council needs to make an appropriation by resolution from the opioid funds. This is similar to what we've done.
Questions or discussion from the council? There need to be just some discussion whether or not the council wants to move forward with a resolution, an MOU, at the next meeting to appropriate.
Council President, if I may, so right now currently there's 500,000 in that account. There's 385 of that is tied up in a CD currently.
In what?
A CD.
Okay.
So that's the status of the money right now, so the council is aware.
What is the budget that Mr. Robillard needs for the programming that he's been?
That has not been determined yet.
So,
That we plan on using that money over the 5 years of the programming for that annex. So there hasn't been a definitive budget set aside for that, but we do plan on using some of the opioid funding. Correct.
so less this, we're going down to what, about 300,000 and change that would be left for the town to use?
Correct.
And where has it been allocated thus far?
The opioid funding, the fire districts.
Just the fire districts?
The council approved 64,000.
Oh, yeah, for the counselor.
The counselor, yes,
The council related to substance use, yeah.
correct.
Okay. Discussion from the council? Councilman Hall?
Again, I'm new, so I'm just trying to understand all of this. We are separate entities, and we are giving money to all of the fire department districts in the sum of upwards of over $200,000.
They're asking for it. Nothing's.
Yeah, correct. But none of, it's hard for me because you need the equipment and this is hard. I think the equipment's life-saving, but it's their tax dollars don't go to the townspeople, but we're taking potential funds from the townspeople that could be used for the annex, for departments that fall under our jurisdiction. When there was a comment, from, I don't want to get too deep into this, but Western threatened to sell all their equipment on us, and it's just like, okay, it's hard for me. That's hard.
And I certainly understand the politics behind.
Yeah, that's hard.
That, and I can see why that would be difficult. The opioid funds, are coming back to the communities, and unfortunately, they weren't allocated directly to the fire district, so they come back to the town, and therefore our request to the town, because it directly supports the mission of the opioid funds. Which
I don't want to be responsible for somebody not having the life-saving equipment that they need. I want to be clear there. That's not my intention.
Of course.
Councilman
Yeah,
Brown?
no, I think it's important that because they are fire districts, You know, I came from that environment too. That with that money came to the town of Coventry, you go to West Warwick, the fire department's benefiting from that money. So that's why most likely the ask when I was chief to support some other opiate funding initiatives came back to the town.
Thank you for that clarification.
What's the pleasure of the council?
I'd like to see it move forward with a resolution to support the request. An MOU.
Any further discussion? Vice President Verducci?
Just gonna second.
Okay. So you want to make that in form of motion?
I do.
Okay. Motion from Councilman Brown, with a second from Vice President Verducci. Any discussion? Again, this is not a vote to appropriate the funds. It's just a draft legislation for consideration. If there's no further, I would just say if a fiscal note of the status of the opioid funds, you know, where it's already been allocated, what hasn't been allocated, what this would, and then the total, should this allocation go through, I think that's important. Company, any resolution. Vice President Verducci.
Just made me think, in regards to the MOU, should that have any consideration for district versus town, or?
That's what he means. So basically, because we've already done it when we allocated to fire districts last year. So the MOU states that if you guys don't spend it on what's allowed in the lawsuit, then you guys have to pay back.
Right.
Not us.
But what about future, district, ownership?
What do you mean?
If there were people were talking about selling equipment and things like that. Since it's town money going over to a district. Should you dissolve the equipment, stays with the town, or, things like that?
What language are you specifically saying?
He's talking about if, again, to get back to the muni fire, if Williston decides to sell all of their equipment and their vehicle and their building, do we get the striker back for the other districts, or are they gonna be allowed to sell it? So I'm assuming you mean.
Oh, I don't want us to get into that, but I think that's something that can be considered when the MOU is drafted.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councilman Brown.
Nope, you just said it. It should be part of the MOU.
If there's no further discussion on the motion, clerk, please take the roll. Oh, sorry. What's that? Okay, go ahead.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua? Councilmember Cabaldi?
Yes.
Councilmember Hul?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis?
Yes.
Vice President Verducci?
Yes.
President Lima?
Yes.
We got 6 in the affirmative, 1 recusal. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to resolutions of the council, we have a couple this evening. Resolution 2025-96, approving the 466 Washington Street sewer connection. This is pages 62 to 71 in our packets. We have Mr. Levesque here, town engineer.
Good evening, Joe Levesque, town engineer. Due to the nature of this property being a multifamily unit, it requires town council approval. I've reviewed the application and all supporting documentation, and I recommend approval for the tie-in of this property.
Is there any discussion from the council? Questions?
We are still not at our limit of what we're using. So for me, this is like a no-brainer because we're already paying.
Yeah, we're about 20% of our capacity.
Only 20%, and we're paying for the other 80%.
That's correct.
God help me.
Yeah. Yep. If there's no further discussion, do I hear a motion to approve the resolution?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2025-96.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Brown, second by Councilman Hul. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown? Councilmember Pasqua? Councilmember Cabaldi?
Yes.
Councilmember Hul?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis?
Yes.
Vice President Verducci? President Lima?
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion passes.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Resolution 2025-97, tax assessors additions and abatements for January 1st, 2025 through September 2nd, 2025. Ms. Martini.
Thank you. Karen Martini, tax assessor. Let's go. We have taxes abated in the amount of $17,167.34. And additions on the prorate roll, $107, $881, $881.12. And supplemental, $72,361.45.
Discussion from members of the council? Councilman Hall?
I see a lot of not a lot of these, some of these are tangible is what you're abating on there, if I'm reading all that correctly. Like the list is long. I'm just curious to know, how you determine the tangibles? Are they just, is it just from their form that they're filling in?
Those were actually missed. The state implemented a $50,000 exemption last year. Those were new, several new companies that the exemption got missed on the tax roll, so they just never got it.
We're just making right on it now. We're not,
Yes.
we're not giving away anything
No,
additional.
no.
Any other questions or discussion from members of the council? If there's none, do I hear a motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Brown, second by Councilman Pasqua. Any further discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown? Councilmember Pasqua? Councilmember Capaldi?
Yes.
Councilmember Hul?
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis?
Yes.
Vice President Verducci?
Yes.
President Lima?
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution 2025-98, transferring assignment of 7 Loretta Avenue to Phil Casey. This is pages 80 to 83 in your packet. Manager Perillo, who's speaking to this?
I'll speak to it.
Okay.
So if the council may recall, this came in front of you a couple of weeks ago. I advised that a resident, Mr. Casey, came to the town looking to take the transfer tax title over for the piece of property that abuts his property. It's totally overgrown. The town has not maintained it for several years. We've owned it for over 15 years. There is an old trailer on there. There's it's a mess of a property that we've never maintained. We also believe that his part of a septic system is on that property. So we are looking to transfer the tax title to him for that property. We are looking to waive all of the interest and penalties as we did for Mr. Beard in a previous transaction. Assistant Solicitor Igliozzi put this together. It was reviewed by Ms. Hool, and she has signed off on it, as you can see in the packet, and we're looking for the council to approve this. Mr. Casey is here if anyone wants to speak to him, reference to the property.
Discussion, questions from the council?
If I'm understanding this correctly, we are looking to transfer real property, including a house, for $14,000.
I think it's a dilapidated shack that's on the property.
For $14,000.
Correct. We're waiving the penalties and the interest. That is what is owed in the taxes on that tax sale property that no one purchased, that we took assignment on.
And what's the valuation of that property?
I don't have that, sorry.
You want to just go to the mic, Bob?
My understanding of it is we don't actually own the property. That property's been put up for tax sale in the past, never been acquired. So we're just assigning the tax lien to that property so that if that assignment gets made, the new holder of that assignment would then have to go and foreclose on the property from the existing owners. We're just looking to collect the back taxes. We never purchased the property or acquired the property.
So if the property went up for tax sale, let me help me understand this. If the property goes up for tax sale and nobody bids to buy it, the town has the right to take that property, correct?
That's correct.
The town could then turn around and auction or sell that property off, correct?
My understanding, correct.
So we've chosen.
If we took, I believe, and the solicitor can correct me, I believe we could do that if we foreclosed on it and took ownership of it, then we could sell it. My understanding was we have no right to sell a property. We don't own it. We just have
Not currently.
an interest,
but we
not
could have,
currently.
Because it went up for tax sale and
We
didn't
could
do
have
anything.
foreclosed on property.
Understood. I just want to make sure I'm getting all this correctly.
That's my understanding.
So we could have had a chance to make more than $14,000.
I don't know the value of the property or the.
I do
property
real
itself,
estate
so
for a
I
living.
can't-
I would have written a check for 14 grand twice today to buy that property. I just, and again, I'm not, thank you for taking the opportunity. His septic's on it, not looking to make a hard time. But it's these types of things that really frustrate people when we're like overspending, we're overtaxing, and then we have an opportunity and we don't take advantage of it.
Director Savetti, do we know approximately how much we haven't collected in taxes from this property since that tax sale date of 2009 or earlier?
Yeah, it says on here, 36,000 is what is tax interest and.
Oh, I'm sorry.
penalties due.
I think I misunderstood.
So I think out of that 36,000, if I'm understanding right, once you eliminate the interest and penalties, the actual tax that's owed on that property is the 14,000.
Okay. So that wasn't just plucked out of the sky.
My understanding, though, that's based on the actual tax rolls and what's accumulated over the time.
Got it.
Correct.
Vice President Verducci.
Could we hear from?
Yeah.
Potential buyer?
Yep.
Thanks.
Just introduce yourself, state your name and address for the record. Just make sure the mic's on, green button.
Gotcha. Phil Casey, good evening. Yeah, I might be able to give a little bit more insight. So the property is actually undersized and unbuildable. There is no shack on it. There is a tow behind trailer that's been there for about 20 years rotting away. We've gotten estimates on what it would take to clean the property up. The junk removal guys said the trailer is actually unmovable in the condition it's in. It's going to have to be manually dismantled on site, put into dumpsters and taken away. Between that, the 20-foot tall brush that's grown front to back, side to side throughout the entire thing, and the tree work, we're probably looking at another $10,000 to $15,000 to clean the property up. I've lived there for 15 years. I've never once seen the owner. Obviously they haven't paid their taxes. They also never maintained the property. It's kind of gone from being an eyesight to being like a real safety concern. There's a lot of children in the neighborhood now. I have a 1.5-year-old son. All of my immediate neighbors also have young kids. I believe there's 8 kids under 10 within a stone's throw of the property. So, obviously a concern for us. There's a lot of construction debris back there in addition to the trailer. And basically my understanding of it is I'm not purchasing the property from the town. I'm purchasing the liens with the understanding that I'm going to clean the property up out of my own pocket and maintain it. I think on my own bad luck, I happened after a year of, or so of talking to the town about this, the night it kind of came here was also, a very passionate issue. And probably one of, the most articulate and persuasive arguments I heard. I was actually kind of rooting against myself until I realized she was talking about me. But this is something that the entire neighborhood is looking forward to. My neighbors are going to benefit from it just as much or more than me because they're not spending any of their money to clean it up. This property is maybe slightly bigger than this room we're in. These were originally camp lots. They're very small. That's one of the reasons why it's unbuildable. Functionally, it's next to useless. Maybe storing some firewood or parking a vehicle, but anybody other than myself or the neighbor on the other side, I mean, if you think anybody's going to pay $36,000 for this property, another 10 to 15 to clean it up, just have a parking spot in a neighborhood they don't live in, and then they find out my septic is probably running under that property. It used to be owned by one person, this property and mine. They split them into 2 properties, left the state. Nobody ever heard from them again is basically the issue. So the old timers in the neighborhood have kind of informed me that at one time there was a small house on that property, and they think that my septic and their septic was shared, and that my leach field is probably half or more running under this property. So if anybody was interested in this little property for some reason at that price and cleaning it up, and then I come along and I say, by the way, my septic is probably underneath your property, I don't know who's going to be interested in this thing. But I'm offering, basically, I would feel more comfortable spending my own money and resources cleaning this property up if I own the liens. And if this person did show up or their family members showed up, they would have to come to me, and I'll be able to add my own liens to the property for the cleanup process. Then I feel like I'm not risking by cleaning this property up.
And again, my frustration is not with you.
Sure, understandably.
You may have intention of doing an ADU or some sort of there where we get additional tax revenue.
Yeah.
The frustration is with the town.
Right.
Number one, we didn't maintain it.
Yeah.
Number two, I don't think we took good value in it.
Sure.
So again, like, thank you for taking the opportunity again.
Yeah. And at this point, with it being unbuildable, I
I
think,
don't know if it would be unbuildable in today's climate, right? We're putting houses on.
well, there's no
3,000
sewer, there's no sewer in this neighborhood. It's all septic. And I believe that because of the size and the placement of the lot,
But we can do an above grade septic system. We do them in high warranty.
that's
I'm
what I
not
would-
saying like it's going to be difficult.
Sure.
I just don't want anyone to think that it can't be with a variant
Yeah.
of some sort.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not here to beat you up on that.
Of course. Of course. Yeah. But this is
We've got
really,
bamboo to deal with. Good luck.
yeah, exactly. This is really more about, cleaning the neighborhood up and, keeping, the 8 or so kids in the neighborhood, off of that dangerous property and all of that. So, yeah.
There further discussion on the transfer, members of the council? What's the pleasure of the council? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion,
Do what?
sell the property to him.
To approve this
14,
motion?
yeah, prove it.
So we have a motion from Councilman Capaldi. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Pasqua. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Capaldi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hul,
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis,
Yes.
Vice President Verducci,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
And we'll move now to report from the town manager. There's a couple of items this evening. First one is, we have a couple here. The discussion on building and zoning enforcement process. That one was requested by the council. It's one of the most common pieces of outreach we get from constituents are properties that aren't maintained or have had issues with being eyesores for the rest of the neighborhood. And we've had complaints from the public about dealing with that. The temporary light for Hopkins Hill, where there's been a lot of conversation and questions around when the opening, the crossing between Center New England over to Hopkins Hill would be opened. There was a request for monthly reports to be delivered to council members from each department head. And then there was a meeting of the fire commission last week with respect to the final work product to go to the town council. So I'll turn it over to Manager Perillo.
So thank you, Council President. So the zoning enforcement and the building official slash minimum housing are kind of broken into two separate entities. So zoning enforcement is handled by Kerry Kowalski. In speaking to her, I kind of asked her, like, what does her typical day look like? What are most of the complaints that she deals with as a zoning enforcement official? And for her, the number one issue is pools. Pools without fencing is a big issue here in Coventry. That's something that she is adamant about, something she takes very seriously, and it's a big part of what she does. Other zoning enforcement issues that she takes on are animals, roosters, chickens, goats, people exceeding the amount of animals they're allowed to have on their property. The third issue is property lines regarding setbacks, where to put a shed, where to put a carport, helping people get through that process. And finally, the newest problem, if you want to say it's a problem, is people having campers on their property, which is not a problem, but if you have someone living in there, that is a problem. So trying to identify if there are people living in a camper is really something that's difficult to do. She tries her best working with the police department to gain access to the property, to vet and kind of do the best she can to enforce that. So her enforcement mechanism that was developed by the solicitor and his team is there are two components. There's a notice of order and a notice of violation. So when she first comes upon a violation, her first attempt is to outreach to the owner via mail, knocking on the door, whatever mechanism she can to contact the owner to make them aware of the violation. That's step one. If she's able to make contact with the person, identifies what the issue is to them, lets them know what's going on, gives them some time to kind of correct it. When that doesn't happen, now she gets into the documentation, which is a notice of order. She issues an official notice of order, which gives the person 30 days to comply with whatever remedy is necessary to eliminate the problem. During that time, obviously, she's communicating with them, telling them what their options are and so forth, trying to get them to comply. The big area and the big thing I want to stress is we are looking for compliance out of both Kerry and Anthony, who does minimum housing. We don't want to fine, we don't want to take them to court. These are residents. We just want them to comply with the code. When the notice of order is not acted upon and there is no change and this violation still occurs, now we go to a notice of violation. That is the final written documentation they get that their house residence is not in compliance. They get an additional 30 days to come up with a plan to remedy the situation. When that notice of violation is posted, we also tell them that there may be a lien put on their property because of the violation. That usually kind of gets their attention. No one wants a lien on their property. Though that doesn't work, that notice of violation gets sent to the solicitor's office. The solicitor brings it to municipal court, and there's a, if you want to say, prosecution. That's the full kind of scope of what Kerry does from a zoning enforcement point of view. If the solicitor wants to chime in with anything at this point.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary. That process was revamped when I came in. In addition to that, I think you have an ordinance that's coming your way for hearing. I think it's ready for hearing relative to reorganize scope of, who oversees zoning enforcement and things of that nature. So I'm not going to get into that tonight, but I think the town manager did a fine job of outlining the process.
So on the other side of the street, we have Anthony Nalillo, who is the permit tech. His official job is the permit tech. So any building permit that is issued goes through his office. A secondary role or responsibility is he handles minimum housing, which is for basically rental properties that aren't doing the right thing per the code, and also property maintenance. So just this summer alone, he's handled over 50 tall grass complaints. That's a big problem in the town, tall grass. There's a code and ordinance against that. He makes the owner aware of it. He sends them a certified letter. If that's not rectified within 10 days, the town has the option to go in and send DPW in and cut the grass for the owner. Then they will get a bill, or we can lien the property if they do not pay the bill. Yes, Councilwoman.
How tall is tall grass?
12 inches. 12 inches, yeah. So that's how he handles the majority of those, if you want to say, property maintenance issues, with that kind of in his domain to issue those violations. When it comes to junk and debris, which is a big issue, he's handled over 30 of those this summer. Those follow the NOO, NOV process, like I outlined for Kerry. So those violations, again, if we can see junk, if we can see debris, if we can see anything that's above and beyond what a normal household should have, he can go through the process. He contacts the owner, NOO, NOV, can lien the property, goes to court. So this whole process takes anywhere between 2 to 3 months. That's why when sometimes you guys email me, there's a problem here, it doesn't get rectified for 2 to 3 months, because that's the process that we have to follow in order to make sure that we're doing it per the way it was outlined by the solicitor, and to make sure that we have everything in order.
Yeah. The reason why we've outlined the process the way that it is because the property owner has procedural and substantive due process rights. So that's why the process is the way that it is.
So that kind of is an overview of how we handle both minimum housing issues and property maintenance. That's basically in Anthony's hand. And we are totally reactive. There is no proactive. He's not going out into neighborhoods saying this is a problem, that's a problem. He's not doing that. If we wanted to expand this role and address some of the nagging issues that all of you hear about regarding tall grass, junk on properties and all that, I would say that we should look into maybe a minimum housing inspector in the next budget, even if you start off in a part-time role. Because his plate's pretty full with doing all the permitting and these other responsibilities. So that kind of is that section of my report. I can answer any questions if you guys have any.
Vice President Verducci.
Two questions. Number one, is there any way we can put that process on the website in like a, readable format? Even, I think a lot of the time for people that, no?
The ordinance.
I think they mean just boil it down to layman's terms of.
My only concern with that from a legal standpoint, I would link it directly to the code. We live in a world today where words mean different things to different people. They see the words that they want to see. If the town interprets it and the interpretation is not the correct legal interpretation,
See what you're saying?
and we are stuck with that meaning, okay?
Mm.
Disabled the statute when we go to enforce. We should link to the statute and they can read the statute. It's a short statute. It's really not complicated.
Yeah, I just think maybe even a timeline, because one thing people don't have is the patience to go through all what you just said. And they say, I told you about it. It's been 90 days, or we could say, yeah, you read the statute, but
I think that's also on council members to say back, just say, send this along and the, zoning officer will go out, but just know that that could take up to 90 days.
that leads me to my second question. Is there any way we can put these in the new work order system we bought for tracking purposes? Is there any linkages between DPW's work order system and then?
Right now, there is not.
Okay.
All right, Cody's just getting the IQ, I think it's called, a system, was it? I were up into DPW. Right now, it's not up, correct, Cody? Yep. Maybe in the future.
Yeah, I
we
just
can
think it would
tie
help for
tie
the.
it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Council.
Yeah, I reached out to the town manager today about an issue that has gone back a couple months. Even if we put it into a spreadsheet, so we as council people get updated, just a checkbox to say where it stands along the way. That way we're not sending them to you every month. But it would be nice to have something circulated when we do report something, to hear something back on what's the status of it. And hopefully someday it'll be iWorks. I agree.
Do you have something?
I was just curious, does that kind of workflow exist in iWorks through the chair?
Cody's just entering it now, the system, so we're not sure the capabilities as of right now. Right now, it's part of DPW.
Yeah, it can be tied into it. And once we're live with the work management, we can probably give the council access to it in read-only view. That's like you, so you can tie to work orders to see the 311 prompts.
All right. Thank you. You mentioned someone, driving around doing proactive enforcement, but my concern, and I'd love to, I know that there's been discussion about this, and I'd love to see a plan from that department, is with all of the development coming, I don't think we're prepared for the amount of zoning and permitting volume that's going to be coming our way.
Correct.
So I would like to make sure that that's still on our radar in terms of a plan, so that we can make sure every unit that's built in the confines of Coventry is
I have to say, Madam President, we're on a bullet point that talks about the zoning enforcement
where, I'm
process.
just making a point. He brought up adding another zoning enforcement officer. I'd say we're probably woefully understaffed in that respect in many ways. Anything else on that first bullet from the council?
So Hopkins Hill Light, so currently we have received 3 bids for the temporary light. I know we discussed as a group the need for the town to fund that light at Hopkins Hill Road. So right now the bids came in from between $105,000 and $130,000. That's for 1 year of a temporary light. In the meantime, we also reached out to DOT to see if they would have any other potential options for us. And they kind of looked at another option regarding some temporary poles and so forth, but that price was going to be almost double what the temporary light was going to be. So That's not really an option. So as we look forward to this crossover being built, I'm going to obviously coordinate with the solicitor to find out from the receiver what his intention is on opening that crossway. So we need to coordinate when he's going to open, is when we need to have the road restriped, which is another expense, and we need to have the temporary light structure here in place in order to activate that. So Crossman Engineering is currently doing a design and engineering of that intersection for us that we should have in about 2 weeks. So once we have that design and engineering, I think it'll be a good time to meet with the receiver and again, try to coordinate what that plan looks like, what we need to mark the road, what Kevin needs in order to get a resolution in front of the council to approve the purchase of these temporary lights and the safety markings. And then we can move forward. Right now, I don't have a timeline of when that is going to happen. I know Kevin said he thought it looked like a month or so out, but I don't think he really knows either. So I think we need to really coordinate that to make that work. So the plan is to get that bid for the light contractor in front of the council. And the big question is, where is that money going to come from? So obviously there is no budget. There's no line item budget for this. This is something in addition. So we'll have to kind of brainstorm and decide where we want this money to come from for the temporary light and to mark the roadway.
Councilman Hul.
I'm not a fan of throwing money at anything temporary, so I'm curious to know what would be the timeline difference between something temporary and why haven't we figured out something permanent? Are we on the track for a permanent light there?
There's going to be a permanent light there, yes.
I've been hearing, no offense to you, but I've been hearing that for a long time. So at what point do we say like, okay, we've went how many years without a temporary light? Are we going to throw more money away, or can we fast track a permanent light there? And can we negotiate some of that cost, to JP's Vice President Verducci's idea? Can we negotiate some of that with the developers?
I'm not going to discuss that in public. It's a matter of receivership.
I would say publicly that I would want them to do it. I'd think publicly throwing away $100 and something thousand every year for a temporary light it's just like, okay, at what point do we start saying like, if we've already been without it for this long, how long can we fast track a permanent light?
Well, we went without it this long because that crossover wasn't opened.
Understand.
Once that crossover is open, that has to happen in order for public safety.
How long would it take us to do the process for a permanent light?
I'm told 6 months to a year.
So 6 months to a year to plan for a permanent light, or $100 and something thousand for a temporary. When is it anticipated to be open?
I can't say. I've been told 30 days.
Thank you.
Councilman Brown.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of heartache with this, to say the least. I've been dealing with that road for 30 years. When they built that center in New England, the infrastructure should have all been built out at that time. We have a lot of units on the New London Turnpike side. There's a huge safety concern over there. There's only one way in, one way out. We had a major gas leak over there that trapped some people in center New England for over 3 hours. And it was a nightmare getting them out of there. This crossing needs to happen. Our constituents want this to happen. It's long overdue. I've received a lot of calls on it. Why ain't it getting done? The contractor down there, DeAmber, has stopped working on it because, quite honestly, you cannot open that road unless you have a traffic light there, because somebody will die. You come out of there taking a left-hand turn, heading south on Hopkins Hill Road, you're going to get hit and you're going to get T-boned. So we need a win here. We need to work with them. We need to get this road open to make the land more marketable is another big part of that going down there, because the builders are looking at that. Hopefully someday that the permanent light will be funded by the traffic study, and hopefully Star Realty is the people that step up and fund that light based on the new traffic study. So that's where I am with it. It needs to be completed.
Totally agree.
Vice President Verducci.
Just to clarify, are we purchasing a temporary light or renting a light or?
I think the rental, like a one-year rent.
Can we buy one and then rent it out to other people? Sounds like it makes some
Sewer
money.
truck, like a sewer truck.
Is there any further discussion on this item from the town manager? All right, so we'll move to the
So if I can
monthly reports.
skip to the fire commission if I could. So the fire commission met last Thursday, on the 4th. We went over the draft of the final report, with the commission. That's going to be sent to the council. The commission has decided that there's some information that needs some, revising. They want to add some additional things to that. So they would like to have a work group, kind of like what we're going to do for the tax freeze, amongst the fire commission members in order to go over all of the dozens of exhibits that we have. That's part of our package. One thing that did come up that we just talked about was the Western Coventry piece, regarding the $4 million to purchase their stuff. Where is that in the report? And some options along that line. So they decided that, again, they want to schedule a workshop so they can all sit, discuss exhibits, and kind of put a package together for the council that really meets their charge of coming up with a comprehensive implementation plan for a fire department. So that's kind of the update for the fire commission.
Any discussion? Okay.
Just thank you for not presenting it without the basic information that I think most taxpayers would want to see.
And lastly, I know we asked for a monthly report, so I have a written document from all 15 departments. I don't know if you want me to go through each one of those. Do you want me to send it to all of you? I'm not sure how you want me to communicate that.
I'm the one that requested this. So again, it would be something that I would like to see if you could send it to us ahead of time, so then we can ask questions if they're there. And my goal for that was, I believe that as council members, it's our job to help the department heads be successful. But we can't do that if we don't know their accrual-based budget, if we don't know their goals, what they're working towards, and what they're struggling for. We're just up here voting blindly based on a piece of paper. That document there will not only help us catch things ahead of time, it'll help us help them succeed. You know, I'm tough in my thought processes, but at the end of the day, our job is to help them succeed. 'Cause if they win, we all win.
The only feedback I did get was they said that things don't change a lot monthly. So if you wanted to do quarterly, but it's up to you guys, but they said their reports are going to be pretty similar month to month. They may be more definitive and more informative if they're done quarterly, but we can provide whatever the council wants.
So just tailing in with our conversation on committees, I'd like to see that timed out. And then, you know, as we approach budget, it would be nice to get those reports, you know, and maybe we hear from the top ones are struggling or whoever in, you know, committee setting. And then we can start to be able to present along with you during budget time, just to get two different sets of eyes. So I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll send them all to all the council. Welcome.
Any further discussion? Councilman Pasqua.
I just want to remind everybody of Resolution 2025-46 that we adopted back in April. That required quarterly budget monitoring from all the departments. And there was a lot of work that got put into this. And the purpose of this was, if a department was trending over 5% year to date, that this would automatically trigger a council review, and the department would talk to the council and work with us and let us know why they are trending over and what actions we could put in place to solve that. And then it would be also an automatic follow-up in the next month. So this kind of thing was already adopted, and there was a whole set of framework that was put together in April. And it was quarterly, because it doesn't change much on the monthly basis. This is something that I had talked to Mr. Savetti about and asked him if this is possible, if this is useful, and we all determined it would be. So I think maybe we just review that resolution, and that's something that we already adopted and we already agreed upon.
And a lot of the updates the departments gave wasn't just strictly where they are budget-wise, because obviously right now we're only 2 months into the budget. So it'll be mostly what's going on, what's happened over the summer regarding Parks and Rec and what the library did and all that type of stuff. So it's not just all financial data. It's just kind of a summary of what they've done over the last couple of months.
Thank you for the clarification, John. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. It's not just to beat them up on budgets. I want to see their goals. Like, what are they working towards and how can we help them succeed is really what my goal was.
Anything else for the town manager? Okay. Lastly, we'll move to public comment for undocketed items. Just come forward to the microphone, say your name and address, and keep it to 4 minutes, please.
Cheryl Kane, 185 Free Schoolhouse Road. Actually, this is something that was probably, I want to talk about is the 3-month that it takes to clear up any kind of NOV or any kind of order. If it takes 3 months to do that, when they finally go to court, they're going to be dismissed because now they've cleaned up the whole area. And this is what's happening with my neighbor. We have an illegal customary home occupation located next to me. And last year it was brought to court. He cleaned it up, took him 3 or 4 months. He cleaned it up. He went to municipal court and they let him, it was dismissed with no prejudice. So now back again this year, he stored everything's back on the property again. And he was given a notice again by Anthony Natalillo. It never went to municipal court. It was supposed to. And now it's going to zoning for some strange reason. No idea why. But anyway, we believe that this illegal customary home occupation is the reason why we're having all these problems. Mr. McLean is under the impression that this does not cover those kind of businesses. But actually, when this ordinance was first established or created, it was for the purpose, the spirit, and the intent for these type of property maintenance businesses, woodcutters, and such. When you read the customary home occupation, you can basically see that it's written for them. Because when you read it, it just says everything. It mentions about the employees, it mentions about no traffic from the employees or customers, delivery, shipments. It says that there should be no change in the residential character of the building. There should be no exterior signs, materials, indication of a home occupation. You can see everything from his property lines. The only thing you can't see is he made like an L in the front on the left of his property. And we bought trees and pine trees that are now probably 7 to 8 feet tall. So right now we are basically covering his dump truck with the big wooden box on the top and all the debris. He has now lined both sides of the property with dry brush, dry leaves. It's just probably like 4 or 5 feet tall on both sides. On the ground, there was just all piles of dry brush. And what he's been doing, he's just been laying it down over days. It will lay down. I have taken many pictures. You probably have seen quite a few of the pictures, and I will be sending you more. I also have many, many videos of what's going on there. Mr. McLean says that if I can't show that he is leaving the property with wood to sell cords of wood, that he can't do nothing about it. This doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you ever want this kind of a business in a residential area when you have 20,000 square feet properties, 10,000 square feet properties? You might have a half acre to, 2 acres. They're all mixed up in this residential area. Years ago, it was like a real rural area, but now there are so many subdivisions, clusters on this road. And so it's not rural anymore. The trees are all down. I mean, it's probably more rural than off, like, maybe on Morris Street or off Hopkins Hill Road. But where we are now, it's open. You can hear everything. So it really makes no common sense to me to say this does not cover those kind of businesses. So like I said again, this is going to happen every year. He's going to do the same thing. And now he's trying to go for a special use permit. If you don't have a business there, why would you want to go for a special use permit? I don't understand this. It's just been it's been back and forth for 3 years now We just want our peace and quiet back. This is a residential area. We don't want to have to run out of our houses because he has having a fire. We've called the police to come, and now the police are saying this fires are legal. The fires aren't legal. When the smoke's in my house, the fire's not legal. When the ashes are on my vehicles and the ash and the cinders are on the neighbor's house, it's not legal. We need to end this now. It's not just on our road, it's throughout Coventry. You can just drive around. I know you guys see it. You guys have to see it. You see all the different landscape and equipment. You see everything on everybody's lawn. Okay, I'm wrapping it up. Please, please help the community. Let us get back our community together back again. We do not want these types of businesses in residential areas. Thank you.
Cheryl.
What's going on, family? The first minute, I don't want to be on my 4 minutes. I'm just going to try to help you guys out. Feedback on my side is saying that the audio on my broadcast is better than the audio on your broadcast. Tonight, Steve is talking into the mic very clearly. I can hear him fine. All my people can hear him fine, but my feedback is that your Zoom and YouTube audio, for some reason, is not as clear as mine. So I don't know if that's something to take up with IT after the meeting, that we can look at maybe some post gains or something like that. Now, on that note, I want to talk about what happened earlier before the meeting really quick. We're not going to harp on it.
Can you just name and address for the record, please, Brian?
Absolutely. I'm sorry about that. Brian Keesing, 78 Arnold Road. Thank you for reminding me. I just want to talk, all right, so we had picked up the microphone. We had an ongoing complaint on the show. We saw other constituents complain about the audio from Mr. Angel. I figured it would be the easiest solution just to buy a microphone myself and place it there, as I didn't see anything in the ordinances or against the laws or whatever of that nature. So I did exactly that. I'm very happy to hear that Mr. Angel speaking into the microphone clearly tonight. If that continues, you guys will never see my microphone again. I can promise you that. Now, on that note, Dan, I defied you earlier, publicly in front of everybody. And I have no interest to do that to you. But do you understand why I did it? All you have to say is yes or no. You don't have to say the details. But do you understand the instance that I referred to when we had our conversation in the back and why I made the decision that I did? Thank you very much. That's all I ask. So with that, I believe that one good turn deserves another, as well as eye for an eye. I'm under the belief that you didn't help me one day. You're under the belief that I didn't help you one day. It's squashed between us from now on. Tomorrow's a new day. Okay? Okay. Thank you, Dan. I did take Madam President's advice to take down the camera for a reason, though, or the microphone for a reason, though. 2 weeks ago, I was about to say last week, leaving the meeting, you got a compliment, did you not? All right. And that was because I saw that people came up here to speak and they had taken much longer than their normal allotted time. And I saw a group of council members allow it and listen to the person and give that person the space and dignity that they needed. I believe that one good turn deserves another. When I saw that from you, it prompted me to repeat that behavior. Keep up that good work, and you'll see better work out of all of us constituents as well. Huel, comments have been going crazy for you tonight. Keep up the good work, dude. Thank you, guys.
Public comment on docketed items. Councilor Chambers, come forward with the microphone, state your name and address to the record. Please keep it to 4 minutes or less.
Brittany Boyer, 318 Town Farm Road. I just want to touch super quickly on the timeline of the zoning things that we heard tonight. I just want to say, as an idea, maybe there's something we can do as a community. I would say, you know, if your neighbor's grass is kind of long, maybe just check in with your neighbor first, see if they need a little help before you call zoning on them. Maybe there's a small act of kindness we can do as a town. I would hate to have somebody, you know, be charged or have a bill if they're 90 and they can't mow their lawn, or they have a broken leg, or they have an infant sick baby. There's, you know, scenarios all over the place. I just think maybe we can try to extend some small acts of kindness that way. Check on your neighbor, check on your friends. And if there's anything the town can do, something small like that, if they're already taking care of a property next door, maybe mow the grass, maybe weed whack. I don't know, not a huge deal, but I feel like if we all work together and do little things like this, it's contagious, and we're all just going to want to help each other going forward. Thank you.
Council Chambers, anyone else?
Hello, Steve Bosquet, 8 Raven Boulevard, Green, Rhode Island.
I was preparing to come up tonight way before we had a big crowd or stuff was on Facebook and I was freaking out. But I had looked into something, and I'll start off with a quick little simile story. When we all go shopping, wherever we go, if you go to Market Basket, Stop and Shop, whatever your place to go, you fill your cart up, you go to your car, put your stuff in your car, you return your cart to the cart corral, right? And you put the thing in because it's the right thing to do. There's no law that says you got to put a cart away, but we do it because we're good people. We don't want the thing to go flying off into someone else's car. It's just the right thing to do. And going on that note, about 3 months ago or so, there was a posting on the Facebook group, and we're showing political contributions, and the shot was, some of the stuff was going in there. I couldn't find it, but when there was some heat going on between our solicitor and some of the taxpayers, I re-looked at it, and it is bad. I mean, the town council should not be taking contributions from PACs, from people that you're going to oversee or potentially handle a contract on. It just is a bad look. It's leaving that shopping cart out there. It's like, sometimes it's small amounts. The police PAC have given from the left all the way across, $100. No, I said from the, my left, sorry, from center across from the Coventry Police PAC. They could use that money for some charity. You guys don't need the $100. I mean, in Hillary's class, she's got $900 in PAC money. It all comes from either the police department or the fire department. Taking almost $2,000 from Stephen Angel it's like, it's a bad look when people are putting heat on it's unfair to him slightly too, but when people are want to know why is he in hot water or not in hot water, people shouldn't be sitting there saying, well,
Steve, can you just bring it to the point where
the point is,
attack
the
territory?
point is, I'm not attacking character. I'm just saying, well, I am, I guess. It's like,
Attacking character.
well,
Bring it to the
don't,
point that you're trying to make.
you should be putting those shopping carts back. The last thing I'll say is the last one that I saw, and this, maybe it is, I don't know if it's even legal, but our grant writer, the month after she was hired, she donated $250 or $200 to Hillary. When she got her contract renewed, she deposited $1,000 into your campaign contribution. When she got it renewed again, she gave you another $1,000. You should recruit. It's like you shouldn't be voting or bringing these people. It's a bad look. That's all I'm trying to say. It's allowed, it's legal, but it's a bad look.
It's too bad, Steve. You and I have had pretty productive conversations, and I've been more than fair with you. I've picked up the phone every time you've called. I've orchestrated meetings between us and other town officials, and you want to resort to personal attacks, that's your choice. So if you have nothing else, you've got 1 minute left.
I have nothing else, and it's not a personal attack. It is. It's about the whole system. It's about the system, Hillary. If you can't see fine, whatever happened. It shouldn't happen, though. The constituents should be able to look at the town council and say, these guys are above board. There's no, there's no questions why something happened. That's all. That was my whole point.
Then I hope all 200 and however many people sign my recall petition, sign up and get 50 signatures to get on the ballot next year. I hope they do.
I agree with you. It's not,
I hope they do.
should step out, but it's something I saw and I felt I had to say it, so.
Great, thank you. We do have one person on Zoom. If you just want to be let in and unmute yourself. State your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Kayla Games, and my address is 4 Francis Court, Coventry, Rhode Island.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Okay. I am calling, I'm actually wanting to come to the meeting because I have a couple questions about a business in the area and the bike path. I know I've talked to the town manager. I've talked to some people on the town council. I don't know if you particularly know about it, but we're having an issue where the owner of the building where the Cup of Joy is, does not want the Coventry people using the parking lot anymore to get on the bike path. I do know a couple people, the town manager has gone out, somebody else has gone out, and he says it's not true. But I know the Coventry residents in the area are being accosted by the man to use the bike path. Now, I don't want it to be a he said, she said thing. I'm just wondering if we can get it clearly marked where the right of way for the people who using the bike path in the field can use that parking lot. So I just don't know how we go about it, getting it clearly marked that this is the cut through for people using the bike path, because he is telling us it is no longer to be able to be used and that it is his private parking lot.
Dan, can we work with DPW to get signage over there? Or does it already exist?
There is a sign there saying that we can use it, and he is still saying it is private property. And when the town manager went out, he's saying it's never been said, but I'm just wondering if we can just have it clearly marked so nobody has to interact with anybody. This, like, my son is 12 years old. He goes to school in Coventry, and he should be able to get on the bike path without an adult screaming at him and telling him it is private property now.
Follow with the solicitor on what we can do.
Yeah, and like I said, if it's just a sprayed thing on the ground that says bike path kids use this one like 4-foot section to get to the bike path.
All right, thank you. I
All
did
right.
see an email about this today, so I know what's in our workflow.
All right, perfect. Like I said, nobody responded back to my email. I know I heard back a couple weeks ago, and like I said, I just didn't want it to be a back and forth, just an easier, clear, this is bike path kids boundaries and people walking dogs, and this is what he owns. So it's easier.
Gotcha, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Last call, public comment on docketed items. Going once, twice, 3 times. Public comment is closed. And now I will seek a motion to adjourn into executive session for the following pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A5, for a discussion and consideration related to the acquisition of real property for the public purpose. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion?
Second.
And a second? Hang on one second. Is this an item you put on, Dan? Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Capaldi, second by Councilman Brown. If there's no further discussion, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua,
Yes.
Councilmember Capaldi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hul,
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis,
Yes.
Vice President Verducci,
Yes.
President Lima. 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Could I have a motion to come out of executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilman Hul,
Second.
second by Councilman Pasqua. Any discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua, Councilmember Capaldi, Councilmember Hul,
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis,
Yes.
Vice President Verducci,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Could I have a motion to seal the minutes of executive session?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Brown, second by Councilman Capaldi. Any discussion? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Pasqua, Councilmember Capaldi,
Yes.
Councilmember Hul,
Yes.
Councilmember DeLellis,
Yes.
Vice President Verducci,
Yes.
President Lima,
Yes.
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes.
Members of the public, the council met in executive session to discuss one item listed on the agenda. A discussion was had, no votes were taken. And at this time, I'll seek a motion to adjourn, excuse me, at 9:52 PM.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilman Hul,